Now, a lot of people have heard about Mr. Tom Breeze because he travels all over the world. They ask him to speak at traffic and conversions, some of the really large conventions. Quite honestly, many, many years ago, I saw Tom speak at traffic and conversion and kind of got a man crush on the information this guy has. And plus, he's just a heck of a lot of fun to hang out with. Well, I followed Tom literally all over the world, where I had to follow him from the top of a mountain to listen to one of these speeches in a baby bathwater, a mastermind that we're in. But Tom really dives deep with some of the top online people in the world, and he makes it really easy for anyone to get started. And when I say some of the top online people in the world, this is a good friend of ours, Kevin Milani, here in the middle. Kevin's actually ranked #1 advertiser for Google. Like, he knows the strategy. Like, this is Google, not Google certified. Like, Google gave him the award. He's quite brilliant. So just listening to him and Tom talk are really pretty amazing. It's one of the things is I had to follow Tom in a car, where we basically had to try to get a joyride in a car up a mountain just to kind of brainstorm some ideas. But what you have literally in this picture is one of the world's top Google advertisers. In the back, it's hard to see Mr. Mike Rhodes. Mr. Mike Rhodes back there is one of the top Google PPC people literally out there talking about artificial intelligence. You have even the guy over to the left was voted the top entrepreneur in Australia last year as well too. Here's Tom hanging out with a bunch of the world's top online marketers for really talking about tracking, which we'll dive into. So the reason I like to go through this whole thing is, quite honestly, Tom's absolutely brilliant. The other thing is quite truthfully, is my girlfriend has honestly yelled at me at this before. Tom is a lot of fun to hang out with. And once you get Tom in town and you have a couple of beers and you start going over a couple of ideas, I'm pretty sure I once said, I told my girlfriend, I'm happy to hang out with Tom even if I get yelled at. And I'm pretty sure that came up in counseling. So all the great things about you, Tom, I'm extremely excited that you're here. True story. I'm excited that you're here. I can't wait to hear about what you're going to talk about with YouTube. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera. I'm going to do what Nick's favorite thing is I'm going to shut up, and I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it away. And if you have any questions from there, please, I'd be happy to interject. But other than that, sir, call is yours.
Thank you so much. I mean, that was probably one of the best introductions I've had, combined with the fact that I'm being brought up in therapy. That's my holy grail of goals right there. That's perfect. As long as I'm interfering with other people's personal lives, that's perfect. That's what I want to be doing. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Thank you for inviting me here. And I can see that we've got quite a few people here. So guys, far away with questions and things. I want to make sure that you've probably been on tons of webinars. I know I have. And I want to make sure that this is very different to what you may have experienced before. I'm going to go content rich and just share with you exactly what works, because I don't really know any other way. Like, being a British guy, as you can probably tell by the accent, we don't know how to sell in the UK very well. We're just like, hey, we're just nice people, and we are able to kind of wow you with content, basically. So that's kind of the British way. But let me share my screen with you guys. And I think they're going to find this very useful. All right, so I'm going to go full screen here. Kurt, can you just let me know once you can see this?
I can see your screen, full screen, sir.
Nice. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about how to get started with YouTube ads the right way for rapid profit and growth. And really, I want to share with you that any marketer can follow our 8-step YouTube ad blueprint for fast results, starting on a shoestring budget. And quite honestly, this is something that I've done in my agency for the last 8-9 years or so. And I've kind of, whilst I wouldn't necessarily say it's always been exactly these 8 steps, we've definitely evolved over time into these 8 steps. It's not like we've learned this recently or something on those lines. We've been doing this for a long, long time for some of the top brands around the world, household names, as well as like a lot of people that you'll be very familiar with in our niche as well. And the process is such that we can run it. There's nuances all the time, but there is a very core structure to how to grow from spending $0 on YouTube all the way through to spending a lot of money on YouTube every single month. So if you do have burning questions, I do love this photo of Kurt and I. If you do have burning questions about YouTube ads, please make sure you put them in here, because we'll allocate some time to go through those questions. And I don't want to leave anything unturned. Like, this is your chance to ask me some questions that you have about running YouTube ads, what problems you may have had in the past, If you're ashamed of the fact that you've had the problem, just talk about like your friend has this problem if you need to. I want to make sure I answer the questions you have, and we'll make sure we go through them all. But yeah, this presentation is not a case of I did my own research, which really normally means I watched someone else's YouTube video. Being British, I can't say the word that you read there. But the whole idea here is to make sure that I'm kind of just giving you what works. One, from what I've learned from my years of doing YouTube ads. Whilst everyone was getting so excited with Facebook as that kind of launched, I was running YouTube ads before all that began. And I'm still running YouTube ads now. This really is a case of like sharing with you what's worked, not just for myself and my agency, but also I teach a lot of people how to run YouTube ads, and they run YouTube ads, and I kind of guide them and show them what works, what doesn't work, and they get really, really good results. And this kind of gives you a bit more of an idea. So this is from a period of the 1st of January to it's like the first quarter of this year. Just to give you some context, this is a spend of $40,000 on a daily basis. So on average, we're spending like $35,000 a day. This is for just one of our accounts, which adds up to over $1 million a month. And that was like a big breakthrough that we had with one of our clients, because it's one thing to get it to the point where you're spending a lot of money, but it's consistency. And that's what this is kind of about. I'm not talking about everyone spending $40,000 a day as a kind of starting point for anybody here. Do not worry yourselves. Like, this is about getting started with the first few dollars. $10 a day is plenty to get started. I don't want to like share with you like, hey, it has to be huge amounts to spend from day one. It really doesn't have to be. You can start with a shoestring budget. But I want to show you like the opportunity that is afforded to you with YouTube. You can really scale it. If you do the basics right, you can just keep on spending a little bit more. But I'm going to show you how to build it so it's profitable from day one, and it's scalable, but reliable. That's the most important thing, because you don't want to have like this great month and then the month later it just turns horrible or anything like that. You want to make sure you have that consistency in your campaigns. And you can see over time, so this is from a whole year's worth of data from when I kind of put this slide together, it was like back in March. You can see that what we're really good is it's stabilizing that cost per conversion whilst also scaling up the ad accounts. And this is kind of like, this is earlier in the year. And this is the 8-step YouTube ad blueprint being applied as soon as we start getting into the account, basically. And this is something that I really truly stand behind, because it's worked many, many times. I wouldn't say I've got a 100% success record by any stretch, but this is the most reliable way that I know of to get YouTube dialed in and make it work really well. There's a few moving parts when it comes to YouTube. And when you know what those moving parts are and you know how to control them and how to optimize them, you're in a great place and a great path to success. So this 8-step YouTube blueprint, as I say, we use it in the agency. My agency is called Viewability. We're a performance-based YouTube ad agency. So that means that when we work with our clients, we're paid on results. But we actually do things one stage further as well. We fund the advertising and clients pay for results. I've been advertising online for 13 years. And this is my 8th year of pure focus on YouTube ads. And more recently, at the end of last year, we created something called Ad Buyers Club, which is where we have like pods that jump in with you and your team to show you exactly how to run YouTube ads. So it feels like we're looking over your shoulder and telling you what to do. And again, pay for results, and people are doing amazing things with YouTube ads. And so we get to not only see what we're doing as an agency, but we get to see all these massive brands that we've worked with and see how they're running things. And we really get to see so much activity on YouTube, and inevitably everyone kind of defaults to these 8 steps that works really, really well. So let me lay it out for you. We're going to go through these 8 steps one by one. So the first step is the perfect offer. What works as an offer from YouTube? Things on Facebook don't always work on YouTube. That's what I want to make sure you're clear with, is that you can have some great offers on Facebook, but they don't always translate nicely across to YouTube. And I'll talk about why and what to maybe tweak as a result of that. Step 2 will be about lean video ads. So we're making sure that when we create our ads to when we first get started, there's no point going into huge levels of production. Don't do a Harmon Brothers type video from day one. Keep it simple. Some of the best videos that we even still use today are shot on an iPhone. and without any lighting. I think there's a mic involved, but it's really not a really high level production video. Okay, so people aren't expecting it. Sometimes you want to do it, but it's not a prerequisite to getting great results with YouTube. Step 3 is about measurement setup. Step 4 is about making sure you can find your audience on YouTube in the most efficient way. Step 5 is about building your campaigns and optimizing and scaling. And then we'll move into some more advanced stuff, which is like step 6, creating much better video ads. Step 7, introducing new offers. And then step 8, looking at designing for a better user experience for your customers and all the reasons why you must do that when you start scaling. And of course, at any point, and I'll be checking the comments box for questions, but please do let me know, because this is like, okay, right now I'm at home in my office, and normally I'll be speaking to a large group of people and I can read you. But right now I'm looking at my camera and I'm looking at my slides, and that's it. And there's no interaction whatsoever. So I need to make sure that if I'm saying something that's useful, because I can't see you, you need to leave a comment saying, get that man a beer ticket. And then I just know that I'm on track. I'm giving you good advice. You're liking the content. You found it useful, etc. That just allows me to know that like it's hitting home, and I'm not just talking rubbish. Hopefully you'll find it very, very useful. All right, so let's go into this first step, the perfect offer. Now, when it comes to YouTube, you do need to remember that we consume content so differently on YouTube than pretty much anywhere else. Okay, so most people are going to look at YouTube versus Facebook. And I understand why, because Facebook's a huge platform that everyone advertises on pretty much. Whereas YouTube is a different platform. But YouTube's different to TV. It's different to pretty much all other social platforms. I wouldn't even call it a social platform to a certain extent. And I would say that it's just different medium altogether. Someone who's really great at copywriting can like suck at YouTube ads. And someone who's really good at creating TV ads can suck at YouTube ads. It's a skill set that's not necessarily impossible to learn, or it's actually pretty easy and simple to learn. You just need to come at it with a clear mind, okay? And when you have a open mind to thinking about how you would run your YouTube ads, that's what I want you to do. I want you to kind of like, if you're making notes, which I understand, I want you to kind of get a fresh piece of paper out and just know that, okay, everything I've learned so far, gives you loads of background and loads of information that you can use. And almost imagine if you press the reset button and say, imagine what it would be like to advertise just differently. I wonder what that would be like. I want you to start thinking like that, okay? Don't carry baggage with you. YouTube is a brand new platform. Think about it differently, okay? So your users and your customers will consume content differently on YouTube. And this is the way to think about it. It's rather like the bookstore in the local town versus a social bar, okay? Or a social club or something along those lines, okay? You're going to YouTube because you might go there because you're looking for information, you want to know something, you want to do something, you potentially want to buy something, or you're kind of just there to be inspired by something as well. And when we go to YouTube, we tend to have like a long time on YouTube as well. Whereas with Facebook, we might check into Facebook on a regular basis, once every hour in some instances. And you're going there to connect with your friends. You're seeing your notifications, seeing if anyone's commented, seeing if people are interacting with you, seeing your posts of your friends and your contacts, all that sort of stuff. It's an engagement place, right? If you wanted to learn how to do something, you probably wouldn't go to Facebook. You might ask your community and ask for advice from some people to say, where should I go to get this stuff? But inevitably, if you're going to start a search, you're going to start out with either Google or YouTube, typically, depending on the type of content you want to search. Now, you go to YouTube and you go there far less frequently, but the visits are far more purposeful. Okay, so you're not going to this is like when you look at something like remarketing or retargeting, and let's say pre-iOS, but the fallout. But if you look at your remarketing and retargeting strategies on Facebook, it'll be wildly different compared to YouTube, because people are going back to Facebook all the time, and people aren't always going back to YouTube all the time. We might visit there once or twice a day tops, whereas we're on Facebook all the time. Now, that's an interesting distinction, because it means the way you do your remarketing and the way you think about that would be different. It's not to say that it'd be wildly different or you can't do it, not that at all. It's just it's different, and you need to think about it differently. But also, when people are on YouTube, the average session duration is 40 plus minutes. That is a long time, because that means that if someone's there for 2 minutes, it means that someone else has to be there for nearly like an hour and a half or something. So on average, 40 minutes is a long time. That's like going to the movies as opposed to watching a TV program. You're more mentally set up and committed to the platform when you go there. And it's not that you're there because you're loving to watch ads. You're there to consume content and you're watching content. But if your ad is placed at the right time and is really good, then people are going to really connect with it as well, because they're fully engaged. And it's a personal place, a bit like how Facebook is. Like, unlike TV, YouTube is this personal place where you go and no one knows what you're doing there. So you can really indulge in your own passions and what you're interested in, whereas you wouldn't do that on TV because it's more of a social viewing. You would kind of, if I'm watching TV with my wife or my kids or something, I'm not going to go and just explore whatever I'm interested in. We're going to have a shared experience there. But people really do remember you as well. It's one of the biggest hidden impacts of YouTube, is that when someone sees your ad running on YouTube, they really consider you like a top brand, because you're like, wow, you're on YouTube? That's awesome. You must be really, really, really successful. You must have great products and loads of customers. And that's how people think about YouTube. Like, the everyday consumer will look at you as a big brand when they see you on YouTube. It's a massive hidden impact that no one really thinks about. But you'll notice this if you look at your stats, the impact you have with people. If the journey starts with YouTube and people go elsewhere, you're going to see a big uptake in conversion rate and trust factor and everything else that comes with it, because YouTube has that hidden impact. Now, what are my 3 favorite offers to run from YouTube? Well, remember, they're going to YouTube because they want to watch video and they're there for information. Okay, so if we know that about our customers, and I think it's 47% of people that go to YouTube are there for search reasons, 53 for inspiration reasons. But if we know that going in and people are wanting to watch video, I like to carry on that same conversation and the same medium of conversation as well. So I love webinars. Webinars can work ridiculously well. Get people to opt in for your webinars. Normally on evergreen, so just-in-time webinars can work really, really well, but content-rich, and put people through a webinar. People are likely to sign up for it and turn up for it and listen in as well. So webinars can work really well. Now, I also like to run VSLs, not VSLs from early 2000s where it's all spammy, but VSLs where it's like a long form video content and it's really high quality stuff and a sales pitch at the same time. If you can piece that together and do a slightly higher production video and make it very, very valuable for people, that can work insanely well from YouTube. You can ask for the opt-in. You don't always have to ask for opt-in. You can go straight, ungated, straight through to the VSL. Both can work really, really well. But it's like a continuation on your journey from your YouTube video through to your VSL content. And people will spend that time with you because the average session duration is 40 minutes. So if you give them good quality stuff, they're going to stick around and watch your video. They've got time on their hands. And the other one I really like is survey funnels as well. You can segment audiences really efficiently with survey funnels, and you can follow up in a very bespoke manner. And you can run VSLs, like bespoke VSLs, off the back of those questions and answers and those segmentation as well. So you can really start designing a great experience for your consumers, segmenting those audiences, following up with them in specific ways, and that can work really well as well. So when we're promoting any page, there is a bit of a checklist I'll go through to make sure it's ad friendly and ad ready from YouTube. So here's a web page, as an example web page. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at page speed. How fast is that page? And I'll put it into the Google Speed developer site. And I'm just making sure that the page speed is fast. Okay, sometimes I get to websites and I put it through the developer tool and this page speed is like 6 or something for a mobile experience. I'm like, that's going to kill everything. Let's fix that first. And if you're not a developer and you've got a website that's not performing very well, either get a developer or look at something like Unbounce or Instapages as your first point where people get to, because you need to make sure it's lightning fast. If it's lightning fast, you'll get so much better results. And if you don't, you just don't know if that's where your money is being wasted, basically. So page speed is really, really important. People are super impatient these days. Now, make sure you're always split testing as well. So many people forget to do that. Always run a split test. You want to be testing out different headlines, the major concepts on the page. And it's almost like if you were to take 6 feet away from the page, like stand on the other side of the room and you look at the computer screen, the things that you can see are the things you should be split testing when you first get started. So that's going to be like headlines, images, layouts, that type of thing. And make sure your headline and your copy is really strong. Make sure it's very, very benefit driven. And make sure it strikes a chord with your customers as well. And make sure they immediately get it. And that could be a combination of the copy. It can be a combination of the copy and the image, or it can just be the image itself. You need to make sure it's instantly gettable, so to speak. So I know where I'm in the right place, and that's what I want. Now, as a quick tip from YouTube, don't overpopulate your landing page with too much copy. They've just watched a video of yours for like 1 minute to 3 minutes or something, and they're going to click through to your site. Don't ask them to do even more, like more reading and things. They're there. They know what they're clicking through for. Just keep it real super simple, just a nice box, opt in, get through to the next page. There's going to have to be some things on that page to make sure it's Google compliant, like all your T's and C's and things like that. But at the end of the day, keep it really simple as you're going to find your conversion rates are much stronger. Make sure your call to action is above the fold. So you have a button there above the fold, and make sure it's mobile optimized as well. Like most of your traffic is likely to come from mobile devices on YouTube. And as a result, you want to make sure the page is super fast for mobile, as well as it's a good experience. So just literally, like, you can go to your site on your mobile and check it out, but there's Browser Stack as a tool that you can use as well. That means you can plug in all these pages into different into different phones, and like it'll be a piece of tech that will show you what your website looks like on mobile experiences of all different types of mobiles. And with that in mind, you're going to find that if you go through those checklists and make sure you've got good scores on all of those, you're going to have a good landing page ready to promote. Now, that's step one, the perfect offer. What we then need to do is say, right now, we need to start thinking about the perfect ad that we create for our audience. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've not done YouTube ads before, okay? And in that instance, it's not like we've got a huge amount of data to pull on to say, this is a sort of ad that we should create based on the data. So let's say, for example, you've got zero data. You don't know what's going to work. You might have an idea about your demographic data, but you don't have enough data to know what exact search terms are working really well for you, or what type of content you want to advertise in front of, or what sort of audiences tend to resonate best with your message. You're not going to know that from day one. So let's just position your product as best as possible with our gut call. And for that, when you start out lean, there's going to be a process that I recommend you follow. This is called Educate. Something we've used for years. It's based on human psychology and how people think, and it works really, really well. And it's really quick. By the way, whenever it comes to running ads on YouTube or any video ad, regardless, please don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to be a good copywriter. You really, really don't have to be. That will be helpful by all means, but it's the last thing that happens when creating video ads, okay? If you don't believe me, just ask yourself this question. When was the last time you watched a video ad, be it on YouTube, Facebook, even TV, wherever it might be? When was the last time you saw a video ad and thought, I love what they said at 13 seconds in? That was beautiful. That was so clever. That was so great. No one ever thinks of an ad like that. We think of the ad based on what we saw or maybe what we felt and what we heard, not what the text and what the copy was. There might be some clever lines in there, some good hooks, for example, but that's not the starting point for a great ad. The starting point for a great ad is sometimes gathering the assets that you've got that really prove out a message that you've got for people. But I'm going to go into a more advanced version of this later in this presentation and share with you what it takes to kind of create really, really clever ads. But this will kind of build a backbone of that. So the first thing we do is we look at for the customer's aim. Like, what are they really wanting? Like deep down, like emotion. What is it they really want to feel? What they want to do? What's kind of holding, like what's the thing that if they achieve that, it's going to bring about their kind of wildest dreams, okay? What's their biggest aim they've got? Okay, we've got to start writing that down. Now, if you want to do a free writing exercise, it's brilliant. I'm not going to do it right now. But what you can do is you can just time yourself for 10 minutes. You stick it on your phone. You shut off all distractions. And the only rule is you have to keep on writing. You can't stop writing for 10 minutes whilst you just think about your customers' aims. Okay. It's an amazing exercise. I learned this from Ed Dale, who's a great copywriter. But just for insights for your customers, all I want you to do is get a big piece of paper, start writing for 10 minutes, no distractions, no nothing, just keep writing and just thinking about your customer and what they really want. 5 minutes in, you'll be like, what on earth is Tom asking me to do? I can't even think of it. Just keep writing. Just keep writing about me asking you to do a stupid thing. That's fine. Just keep writing. And there'll be moments of absolute pure genius you come out with that'll be like 7 minutes in, 8 minutes in, you'll write something like, I never even realized that was in my brain. That's amazing. So go and do that exercise at some point, even today if you want to. It's amazing. But yeah, you want to think about your customers' aims, and then you want to think about their difficulties. Like, what's stopping them? What's holding them back? Is it something physical, or is it psychological? Is there something that they just aren't able to do? That's the difficulty. That's stopping them, and they can really align with that. If you can explain that difficulty to them better than they know it themselves, they will instantly bond with you. They'll be like, "Oh my word, you get me. You really understand me. That's exactly the problem I'm experiencing. No one's phrased it like that before." And if you do it like that, that'll really, you're going to really connect with your customer there. Now, those two are a bit more difficult to perfectly define because it's going to be a bit of split testing and a bit of like lots of different messages could work there. So you want to come up with a few different concepts potentially. But from the U, C, A, T, and E, this is pretty formulaic at this point. Okay. There's less thinking because you've tapped into the right-hand brain thinking here with the aim and the difficulty, the emotions, the abstract thinking, the concepts here. And then from UCATE, you're still using some right brain thinking, but it's a lot more left-hand brain thinking. So it's more logical and systematic and wanting to tick boxes and things like that. So let's walk through what those things are. Now, the second thing is the understanding. Okay. Now, this is where you got to show your customer that you really understand who they are and what their problems are. And the best way to do this is talk about your backstory to your customer, like to why you even created the product or why you created your brand and your company in the first place. Like, what was the mission you went on? What was the reason for doing all of this? And even if it was like to make more money, sure, fine. And there's a reason why you chose that business model. There's a reason why you got into this industry. What is the reason? What's deep down? Is there a story there? Is there some sort of like thing that fired you up that you were angry about? You stood for something or stood against something? What's deep down in that story that like realized that you were going to create this brand and it started out? Okay. And that was the whole reason why you started out in this way. Now, if you can identify that, and it's kind of a bit of a hero story, but really shortened version, but you've got to have a mission here that people feel like, oh my word, you stood up for me. This is brilliant. This is a brand that I can really stand behind. You share the same values as me. Amazing. You do things in the same ways that I like, and you stand for things, you stand against things that I really feel passionate about as well. They're going to really connect with you. Remember, you just described their problem in the way that they have never heard it being described before as, and they're going to feel really connected with you. And now they're hearing a whole story behind why your product exists in the first place. This is like, oh my word, where have you been all my life? You've just turned up at exactly the right time for them. Now, once you start telling your story, you then need to build in your credibility. You need to share with them like what's happened as a result. Like, what have you achieved? What awards have you won? Where has this taken you? Have you stood on stages and spoken about this? Have you written a book? Have you, how many people have you helped? How many awards have you won? How many reviews have you got? How, like anything that's just builds on that credibility, any publications you've appeared in, anything that immediately makes people think like, wow, you've done it. You've cracked it. This is amazing. You've got the results for people and you deserve it. This is great credibility. And then you kind of do that quickly, and then you're going to move into what we call the action plan. This is your unique proprietary method or system or blueprint or formula, some sort of way that you work that makes people feel like, I can hook onto that for sure. There seems some sort of methodology here that I can resonate with. So your action plan should normally be like 3 steps, if it can be at all. So even if it is 27 steps, condense it down to 3 major concepts so people just get it. And if those 3 concepts also manage to tackle some of the biggest difficulties that those people have or biggest objections that people have, all the better, because you're pre-handling those objections then. Then what you're going to do is you're going to move into the teaching or the testimonial section, or both. So at this point, you might unpack and teach them something about that action plan that is yours. Or you might show some testimonials of customers just like them. And the similarity is really important, by the way. So you've got to, if your customers are females over the age of 40, show testimonials of females over the age of 40. You've got to resonate with that customer to feel like, oh, that's me, or people just like me. And so build those testimonials. You can do both, teach and testimonials if you wish. And then at the end, you're going to pull the exit here as well. Now, there's other factors involved with this that we'll talk about a little bit later. But if you get those points down, you're well on your way to creating an amazing creative. Now, I wouldn't ever write the script just yet. I'm going to start to try and build in assets. So I'm going to say, right, what have we got about our story, our backstory for our understanding piece? What other bits have we got for credibility? What have we got for that action plan? What have we got for the testimonials? And what can I teach them that really connects with those people? Now, when you've got that and you've got those assets, use the assets, like really work with those assets. And then the copy just works around those assets. You're just stitching it together. It's like the glue that pulls all the pieces together. That's the copy. But find the assets first, because that's what people see, what they hear, what they feel is the amazing assets. And that's what they remember as well, not your copy. So that's, I don't know if I've drummed the point home enough, but just one more time, don't worry about your copy. Think about that last. All right, so that's your lean video ads. Now we're gonna talk about measurement. So we've talked a little bit about like this creative right-hand brain thinking, and now we're gonna start thinking about the left-hand brain thinking about the measurement. So I'm gonna switch gears ever so slightly. All right, so step 3, measurement setup. Now, I would recommend you pick what's called a major milestone metric. Now I'll talk about what that means. Okay, your MMM. It's very difficult to say that, by the way. MMM. Anyway, so you're gonna have your video ad, and you're gonna have a customer journey, of course. And as people see your video ad, you're going to hope they view it and they click it and they go through to your landing page. Now, as they go through to your landing page, you're going to hope they take the right sort of action and get through to your thank you page. Now, let's say, for example, this is going to be a webinar. It could be anything, but it doesn't matter what these pages are, to be honest. Really, they're steps in the journey for someone to make a decision. And there could be, these are kind of quite macro steps. This is page by page, but there's going to be micro steps as well in here as well that you could track. So how long were they on that page? How far did they scroll on that page? You could track everything if you wish to, or as much as you can. And then you've got the sales page that people get through to. They get through to the checkout page and then they buy, or there might be an upsell from there potentially as well. Now, very standard customer journey that people go through. Now, what your major milestone metric needs to do, it needs to, first of all, per campaign, track about 20 conversions per campaign per day. Now, I know we have not talked about campaign build outs just yet, but what I'm saying is that it can't be just a sale, because each one of your campaigns, unless you're doing really, really well, you're not going to drive 20 sales from one of your campaigns from day 0. It's just unlikely to happen, especially if it's higher ticket. Once you've got going and you're starting to really scale, sure, you might want to optimize for sales. But in the early days, it might be best to optimize for leads potentially, or optimize for key moments in the buying cycle. So when they've become problem aware and solution aware, and once they get to that key metric, you're like, great, that's the point at which I feel like YouTube ad has done its job. It's got people to this page. It's got people to the sales page, perhaps, or it's got people to turn up to the webinar and spend 10 minutes on the webinar. Whatever it is, like your YouTube ad is only going to take people so far. The website has to take over at some point in the nurturing marketing sequence. But you want to make sure you're tracking something that happens on a regular basis. Okay, so consider your budgets, how much you're willing to spend. If you're going to spend $25 a day on advertising, then you're not going to get enough data coming through really quickly. So let's say, for example, you're optimizing for leads and you're wanting to pay $5 per lead, let's say. In that instance, then you're going to be wanting to spend about $100 a day. Okay, that's optimal. It doesn't have to be that much. You could do it on $25, to be quite honest. But once you start seeing that data come through, you're going to want to start giving it more budget so that you can really borrow the skill of the machine learning with Google. But it also, that major milestone metric has to be an accurate predictor of your ROAS. So I wouldn't say hitting a landing page is a good pixel to fire or a good milestone to measure, because just getting someone to a landing page doesn't really mean much just yet. Yes, of course, there's some indication that they might become a customer versus someone who hasn't visited your site before. However, you're going to want to make sure there's a point at which you can say, okay, that's the moment I'm optimizing for. Okay, and it's a good predictor of ROAS. So a lead might be better. Someone who hits the sales page might be even better. Someone who initiates a checkout might even be even better. So you can kind of work out what's happening on a regular basis. It's quantity versus that quality. Is it an action that's actually worth something? Then you'd have your major milestone metric tag, and you're going to add it to the page. Let's say, for example, you're doing lead gen here, but it could quite easily be a confirmation page if you've got more budget for that. Okay. Now, once you've got this and you're saying, right, I'm going to optimize for lead gen here, and you're only optimizing the campaigns for lead gen. It's not saying you optimize the whole account for lead gen, because when you're running it, you might say, well, let's keep a very, very close eye on how many sales are being generated, but it's going to be easier for me to optimize quick based on lead gen cost rather than sale cost. So I don't want to say like, this is the be all and end all, just track your leads and that's it. No, keep an eye on everything. But I look at things slightly differently when it comes to running ads. So most people will do this. They'll say, what's your average order value? So when you make a sale, how much on average are you generating in terms of cash generated? Take out your cost of goods sold as your COGS, and also take out your ad cost, and drum roll please, that's how much profit you've generated. Okay. I learned from Profit First from Mike Michalowicz. Great book. If you haven't read it, go get it and read it. It's very, very good. Really helps you think about your finances differently. And what the suggestion was is to say, we'll switch these two things around. And honestly, when you apply this to ad buying, it makes a huge difference to how you think about running your ads. Okay. So if we do this now, so you say, what's your average order value? Take out your cost of goods sold, and then take out your profit. So you get to decide how much profit you want to generate. Now, if you take, let's say 20% profit, that is the perfect number, I think. Any more than 20% profit from your early campaigns, you're taking too much profit, and you'll probably find you'll get too much of a good thing, and you're inviting competition to come in, basically. You are inviting your competition to say, hey, well, I won't take quite so much profit, and I'll run it harder on you, and I might play you out the market. Not good, okay? Now, if you say it's 20%, and then, so if you take too much profit, it ends up you don't have as much ad cost to play with. Whereas if you take less than 20%, if you can afford it, even better. Maybe you can just break even on the front end. Okay, maybe you even lose money on the front end, and then you'll make it up on the lifetime customer value. But there's going to be a point at which you want to run your ad account, and I'm a direct response advertiser, so I like to see money being generated from money that I spend as quickly as possible. So there's going to be a cutoff period, maybe like 14 days or 30 days or whatever you can afford to wait for, where you kind of call it and say, right, I'm going to optimize for that. I know there's going to be more purchases that happen, and my ROAS will always increase. My return on investment is always going to increase because they're going to buy things from me in 2 years' time. But there's a cash flow question here. How fast can you scale will depend on how quickly you make your money back. Now, with this in mind, you can start to work out your margin, because let's say, for example, your average order value, and you take this formula of taking out your profit margin, and that's going to equal your maximum allowable CPA. Let's say, for example, your average order value was $100. Your cost of goods sold is 30. Bear with me just a second. So yes, you had $100 average order value, $30 on COGS, and then you took your 20% margin for your profit. Now you're happy. What have you got to play with as a maximum allowable CPA? Well, let's work it out. Let's say, for example, your profit, you're going to take 20%, which is your $14. Your maximum allowable CPA based on this would equal $56 per sale. Now you might sit there and be like, I know these are arbitrary numbers right now, but you might sit there and think, $56, I can nail that all day long. That's really easy for me to do. And that's exactly where I want you to be as an ad buyer. I want you to have such easy margins that you nail it, so you're not counting every single penny, and you're starting to think about your brand, and you're starting to think about running better campaigns, because that's going to give you longevity in the game. Okay, you can start to look at this from a different perspective, because you're now saying, I've freed up margin because I know I'll get my 20%. That is safe. I've got that coming through. But now I can spend all the rest of this experimenting, creating ads where it's like they don't have to be so salesy that I drive a positive result every single time. I don't have to look for my 17x ROAS. I can look at this from a standpoint of like, I'm doing great advertising. I'm actually doing something really useful for my audience as well. And yes, I could do a less content-rich ad perhaps, and make a little bit more money, but you don't have to. And guess what? You'll play out the market, and you'll play out all the competition. They won't be able to keep up with you because you've worked out this number from the early days. And obviously keep an eye on it, but this frees you up to be a much better advertiser, in my opinion. So can you do that at $20 cost per conversion per day? And hopefully you can. But let's say, for example, you were driving it at $56 per sale. That's the maximum allowable. But let's say, for example, you were at maximum. That would be over $1,000 per day per campaign. So that's not great, obviously. So if that was a maximal allowable CPA of $56 per sale, you would then look, well, maybe let's do it on leads then. And you look at the conversion rate of lead to sale, perhaps. And then you just play that backwards, basically, to say, well, roughly speaking, your maximum allowable major milestone metric cost for a lead would be around about $8.40. Because then at $20, at 20 conversions per day, $168 per day budgets kind of is much more palatable. And you can run it that way. So you may look at it from, do I want to do a sale perspective? Do I have the budget for that? If not, maybe go for an earlier milestone, like a lead gen or a key page view, or I don't know, whatever metric is good for you to measure on. You can dial in for that. And just make sure that 15% lead to sale ratio is consistent. Make sure there's a trend there that you can rely upon. If it's fluctuating from 15 to 50 and then back down to 2 and then back up to 100 and then whatever, you got to make sure it's pretty reliable so you can trust these numbers, so you can dial them in based on this. So that's measurement setup. Now what I want to do is go into find your audience. And I will stop for questions at the end of step 5. So keep firing away with those questions. Hopefully this is useful. Kurt, if you need to, just interject and ask any questions or give people a breather. I know I can speak quite fast sometimes. So
no, I think this is great. I mean, I've said over and over in my brain walking around here, give that man a beer ticket. There's a bunch of people here. Give that man a beer ticket.
yes.
So, I mean, in my personal opinion, the thing is, when we get on these types of webinars and stuff like that, you know, a lot of them are just a whole bunch of fluff and you're really diving in. So I appreciate you're going to stick around for questions. I just like it if you just kept going, dive right on in. We'll take questions here in a little bit. The main thing is I just don't want to get you off track from everything that we have to cover. And I'm happy to answer everybody's questions, you know, like you said, towards the end. But this is good, sir. Please keep going.
Nice. Okay, cool. Let's keep going then. All right. Measurement setup done. Step 4, find your audience. Now, remember what we talked about earlier. YouTube ads is rather like the bookstore, right? So people go there because they're looking to know something, do something, buy something, and sometimes be inspired by something as well. So it's more of a search-based platform. However, there are other ways of targeting your audience. Now, I want you to, you know, we talked about earlier, get a blank sheet of paper out, think about YouTube differently, think about becoming a different type of advertiser than a Facebook advertiser or any other platform you might be advertising on. If you're new to YouTube, or even if you've tried YouTube and failed before, this might really help. Okay, so to sit back, don't make too many notes just yet. Just think for a second, okay? Just hear me out. All right, so if you had this bookstore, you're gonna have 3 different types of customers. You're gonna have a window shopper, you're gonna have a store shopper, and you're gonna have a checkout shopper. People call them all different things: top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel, whatever you wanna call it. I just like to think of them as people. Because if I had a bricks and mortar store and I owned a physical store where people came in and bought, I like to think of these people as people, because then I know how to talk to them. And that's what YouTube's all about. Okay, you're talking to people, you're connecting with people via video. So the window shopper is someone who's walking past your store, sees the store and thinks, hey, I like books. That sounded weird. They might walk past and be like, oh, there's a book that's interesting to me. And I'll be interested to have a look at it. I may go inside, I may not. I might make a mental note and one day come inside the bookstore. But right now, yes, I might do, might not, but it's definitely caught my interest. So you're going to have these window shoppers that are interested in you. Then you're going to have the store shopper. Now, the store shopper is someone who does come in the store, and a window shopper can turn into a store shopper because they come in to do some more research or find that book they've just been interested in. And when they come in store, now their psychology is very different. It's gone from thinking, should I entertain this or not, to now, all right, well, whilst I'm here, let's ask a few more questions, or let's go and do my research. So you might go and start looking independently to begin with, skirting around the website or skirting around the bookstore and finding the right department, getting there, doing some reading, finding some different books. And then before you know it, you're going to think, actually, hang on a second, I probably could do with some help here. I'm going to ask someone in the store. And you're going to talk to a sales rep or someone who's got a bit more information than you do about this store, about the books that it stores. And you're going to ask questions. You can say, well, I really like this topic. Do you have any other books? Or is this the one you recommend? Is this the latest edition? And other questions you would have. So you're going to talk to somebody and you're going to connect with them. And they're going to be helpful, hopefully. And based on that, if they're helpful and they're useful, you're like, that's great. Well, now I want to become a checkout shopper. I've got the book in my hand. Let's go to the checkout and buy. And when you're there, you might say, hey, just final checks. Has this author done any other books? Because I might just get the whole collection whilst I'm here. Or is there any other things that I should know about this author? Have they done any extra, are there any other authors that have created books around this content or other content that might inspire me as well? And so you're asking questions and you're kind of saying, is this a good book? Is it not a good book? Am I going to read it? Am I not? But you're at that point where you're at the checkout and you're making your decision. Basically, you want some further confirmation and some assurance that you're making a good decision. Now, what's really interesting, and I'll pass this over to your brain for a second, is the point of purchase and the point of value. Okay, so the point of purchase, are you going to make a decision to buy there and then? Okay, and the point of value is deemed to be the point at which you're reading the book and you're opening up the book and you're reading about it and you're getting information and then you're like, this book is really good. I really like it. I'm going to recommend it to other people. Now, the interesting thing is that with things like this, and I really want you to think about this, especially if you're selling like e-commerce and low-end products, the point of value sometimes is the point of purchase. And what I mean by that is, how many things have you bought before and it comes to your doorstep and it arrives and you're like, oh, good, I'm glad that's arrived. And then you never actually open it or you never use it. How often does that happen? A lot, right? So the point of value is often in the purchase itself. You buy it because it makes you feel something, like, I'm clever. Like if I buy a load of books from a bookstore, I think to myself, hey, I'm pretty clever because I've bought these books. So for some reason, I think that the knowledge is instantly in my head and I'm happy with that. And that's why I've got like books everywhere and I feel great when I buy them. And it doesn't really bother me that I haven't read all of them just yet, because I'll get around to them one day, probably won't. But you get the point, right? You're buying not because of what your logic brain thinks. And this is what I really want to push back to you, because I'm going to talk about this in due course when it comes to the video ads that we create in the future. And the more advanced video ads, is like you're providing value to people by the fact they're actually engaging with you. It's crazy to think like this, but this is right brain, left brain thinking. Left brain thinking is like, I'm only going to get value when I read the book and I get the value from it. Right brain thinking is more like, I feel great when I buy this book. That's why you're really buying. The decision is based on that. But we'll talk about that in due course. Anyway, 3 different types of shopper, right? Now, when it comes to YouTube, you've got loads of different types of targeting types. You've got remarketing, and you've got placements, keywords, custom audiences, topics, in markets, affinity audiences, similar audiences, and many more as well. Detailed demographics, custom match. There's loads of other things you can do here as well. I don't want to bamboozle you with this because yes, all of it can work incredibly well. And it's all about making sure you know what you're doing with this. Okay. Now, with one button, I'm going to do this. And now this starts to make things a little easier, because you think, well, if I'm going to use that type of targeting, I know who I'm getting in front of and what mental state they're in, like what they're thinking and what problems they might have. And how I know if there's a store shopper that comes up to me, I know exactly how to speak to that person. And isn't that easier now? So you've got this targeting type. Let's say, for example, you've got custom audiences there in green. You're like, if you use custom audiences, you're going to be talking to a store shopper. When you talk to a store shopper, you would talk to them differently than if you're talking to a window shopper. So a window shopper you need to grab their attention. A store shopper, the attention's already there. Just give them a great experience. And then a kind of checkout shopper, they need just a bit of assurance. They just need to know that, like, okay, I'm making a good decision. Other people like me have made these sorts of decisions in the past. They've had great results. I feel good about this. It's fine. But now you know your shopper type. You know how to speak to them. You know this is like the best way of understanding what sort of content you want to put together for your ads. But let's talk about store shoppers and in particular custom audiences, because it's such a powerful way of targeting your audiences. So custom audiences. Inside of your YouTube account or your Google Ads account, which is where you'll run your ads from, you can build custom audiences based on data that Google's already got. But this is your own individual audience. It's not like a predefined one. You get to curate your own, basically. So let's say, for example, I've got here audience name, best acoustic guitar. Let's say I'm selling acoustic guitars and I want to build an audience of people that are interested in best acoustic guitars. Okay. Now, if you look here, I've highlighted it in green. I've selected the second one down here where it says people who searched for any of these terms on Google. Let me just say this again. So I'm only on campaigns running on Google properties. On other campaigns, terms will be used as interest or purchase intentions. Don't worry about that bit. All you need to know is that this section here is people who searched for any of these terms on Google, which means if someone goes to Google and searches one of these terms we're going to add in a second, it's almost like they've been tagged and put into your custom audience. So then when they come to YouTube, they'll see your ad. It's pretty powerful. That means you can kind of take all the power of Google searches and then say, when they come to YouTube, I'll turn up in front of them. It's pretty cool. So what do you add in here? Well, I'm going to add in to start with best acoustic guitar. Okay. And think, right, well, really handy thing here is Google help you out here. So they say, well, what about these other ones? Now, if you've already got data, they'll also predict, and they say, hey, you should probably add these other keywords in here as well, because based on your conversion data, these are good keywords to add as well. It's like, oh, thanks, Google. That really helps. So you won't have that when you first get started, but when you have run a bit of traffic and got a few conversions, it'll start doing that. But you can say, right, okay, well, I'll add this one, best acoustic guitar to buy for beginners. And I won't do the second one because that's about guitar strings for beginners. Not the same thing. Let's choose these other three here as well. And so before you know it, you have added a few keywords in here, and it's going to look like this. Now, you can add 10, 15, 20. You could add 100 if you wanted to. However, what you're looking for in the right-hand side, you can see weekly impressions, and you can see 100 million to 500 million. That's pretty big. That's enough for now, unless you need more customers than that. If you really need more customers than 100 million in your first week of running on YouTube ads, you've got a different problem altogether. I think that you probably start small and grow slowly, right? So 100 million is fine to begin with. Could be 500 million, so that's a lot. When you look at this, what's really happening is that someone goes to Google and types in recommended acoustic guitars for beginners, and they put that into Google. Then a little bit later, they come to YouTube, they're going to see your ad. Okay, so they're just about to watch some videos about anything. It doesn't matter because they're being tagged into your custom audience now. And now they see your videos selling acoustic guitars. It's a fabulous way of advertising. It's so clever. I love it. It works really, really well. And those audiences can scale really, really efficiently as well. So, and of course, this is an ad for a client, but this would be your ad, of course, on YouTube. Now, that's window shoppers and how you can, that was store shoppers and how you can say, let's get in front of a store shopper based on a custom audience. But there's also a variation here where you can build it for window shoppers. Because you could say, well, my product's never really searched for on YouTube. I'd challenge you a little bit on that. However, if there's not a natural search audience for you on YouTube, but you think, but hang on a second, I know I've got a load of window shoppers. Like if people have the same sort of interests and I can get in front of them, I know they're going to love this product. It's like, okay, cool. Well, let's use a custom audience in a slightly different way. Now, what we do here is we say, right, let's go back to this page again. We're going to build a new custom audience. But this time, instead of going for those people who search for any of these terms on Google, now let's look below and go for people who browse types of websites. Now, you can have it based on people's apps as well on their phones. But the bottom one there, people who visited certain places, is actually now not available. It's changed. I don't think that data privacy has worked too kindly for certain places. That's literally following people where they go. So it could be like, if they go to a golf course, your ads can show to them. That's a bit creepy, even for Google standards. So you can build audiences. Let me just go back to there. So you can build audiences based on websites that your customers visit. Okay, so let's say, for example, they always go to ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft or Keep now, I think it is. Or all these other like CRM platforms, because your customers always go through to their CRM because they're ad buyers or something along those lines. It's like, great. If they go to those domains, build audience of those people because they're my perfect audiences. Or if there's big blogs in your space, maybe use those domains because if it's about that particular topic and you know that's exactly where my customers go, great. Add them into this and build an audience based on people who browse types of websites. It can work very well indeed. All right, so that's finding your audience. A couple of ways. There's so many other ways, and we can spend hours on it, but those two work really well. And now let's talk about building, optimizing, and scaling your campaigns. There's no point going into too much detail here because if it's for a lot of you that's never got into YouTube ads, this just becomes theoretical more than anything else. And I don't want to just walk through screenshots with you. So instead, I just want to give you a bit of a framework instead. So we're going to go through build, optimize, scale, and then expand. Okay. So that's the way that I think about it, like a BOSE, B-O-S-E. So let's talk about B for build. All right. So when you build your campaigns, you're going to have a few things here. So you've got your campaign, you've got a bid strategy type, and you've got your budget, how much you want to spend, and you've got your ad type of ad you're going to run, and the targeting. Now, to keep things simple, what I would say is that in your first campaign you ever build, you're going to choose something called maximize conversions. You actually get 3 choices. You get manual CPV, which is a cost per view. So you literally decide how much you're going to be paying on a cost per view basis. You've got maximize conversions, which is where Google are going to try and maximize the number of conversions you want, or maximize the number of conversions for the budget you give it. And then you also have something called target CPA. Now, target CPA is more a case of you set a budget, and you also set like, here's what I want the conversion to come in for. And hopefully Google will be able to achieve that for you. Now, stands to reason that target CPA sounds the better option, right? But I would recommend, not all, I mean, it's like a rule of thumb more than anything else. Not to say that this is definitely the best way to do it. It's more that I would recommend in the early days, work on maximize conversions with low budgets. Then when you scale them up, move into target CPA, but we'll talk about that in a second. So you start with maximize conversion as your bid strategy type. You want to try and do a 10x your target CPA. So let's say, for example, you're looking to get $5 leads, you'll give it $50 a day. And your ad type will be in-stream. These are the like pre-roll ads on YouTube that I'm sure you're familiar with, the ones that you got skippable ads. And then you've got the targeting, and then you would use that custom audience you just built. Now, you might do the same thing with another campaign and do maximize conversion again, 10x your target CPA, and then you do in-stream, and then you would choose your second custom audience. And I'll break it out by campaign in this way, okay? And you're going to see what works, okay? And you're going to try and do your best to optimize it down, okay? And the way you look to optimize is when it comes to these campaigns, you do macro optimization to begin with, okay? So that's going to be things like, let's eliminate all the bad ages that don't work for you, or the genders that don't work for you, or the devices that don't work for you. Anything that's outlying, let's pause it out pretty quick for both those campaigns. Because when the early days, when you set that campaign live and it's in its learning phase, let's say, what you want to try and do is nudge the machine learning in the right direction and say, okay, cool. If mobile's costing a lot more, let's not try and push it with mobile. Let's just allow desktop and tablet to take over potentially. Or if there's certain age groups that just don't work for you, let's just eliminate those early. Let's nudge the market, the machine learning in the right direction, and likewise the gender as well. Now, as you optimize, then what you want to do is say, okay, this is actually working pretty well now. Let's go and scale this thing. And you're going to want to increase your budgets. Okay, that's the vertical scale you can do to begin with. And as you scale up, you don't want to do it quickly. You can do it faster in the early days, but as soon as you get above, like, let's say $200 a day, just nudge it up every like 3 or 4 days, make sure it stabilizes and still continues working well for you, and give it another nudge, maybe 10, 20% nudge. Now, at some point, you'll find that maximize conversions stop working for you as you scale up. There's lots of different reasons for that, but it's just a bidding strategy type. And what you might want to do is flip it to a target CPA campaign. And that's where you give it a few more days, a target CPA campaign at the same budget. Hopefully it will dial in and work really well for you. And then you can really start to scale with target CPA. So target CPA will allow you to go much faster. Could you have started target CPA from day, like from moment zero? Yeah, you probably could these days, but I would love to get more data into the account first before I start working on target CPA. So I would say start with maximize conversion and merge it or switch it to a target CPA campaign as you go. And then, so you've got your scaling opportunities there, and then you want to expand it as well, right? So you've got the horizontal targeting or horizontal scale that you can do as well. So you've got all these different types of targeting that we haven't explored yet. You can get into those. Some of them work really well on a better CPA basis. Some of them work really well in an opportunity to broaden out and scale up faster. And you can keep on building custom audiences as well. There's just loads of things you can be doing to really improve your results. So that kind of brings us to the end of step 5 of how to get started. So we've talked so far about step 1, getting a great offer, getting some lean video ads, making sure you measure things properly, and you found some audiences, and then you can build those campaigns. And that will get you started with YouTube. That can get you to a really heavy amount of spend every single day. I mean, you could probably just do that and get to like $2,000-$3,000 worth of spend every day. I probably wouldn't recommend stretching that far that quickly. I'd probably want to move on to step 6, 7, and 8. But that's going to get you started and get you really profitable and allow you to start scaling as well. So in a second, I'm going to pass over to Kurt, and then we'll dig into a little bit more detail here about some of these more advanced strategies as well. I don't want you to necessarily say you have to implement these advanced strategies immediately. It's just be aware of them, because it will make you better as an advertiser, much better as an advertiser. And you can take all these skills and take them across to Facebook as well. But I'm going to pass over to Kurt for a second. He's going to introduce some new stuff to you as well. But keep firing away with those questions as well, because I want to make sure that we give you all the answers you need. So, Kurt, I'm going to hand over to you. And
absolutely.
And I will come back.
Sounds great, sir. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. You'll see it here in a second. Nick, can you see my screen? Tom, can you see my screen?
I can indeed.
Yes.
Ooh, give that man a beer ticket. I've heard that line a couple of different times, but I've never seen this training before. So this is really good. I really, really, really like this. I mean, really, Tom, one of the selfish reasons I wanted to have you here is because I spent a bunch of money on YouTube, and I'm not doing anywhere close to some of the things you've suggested here. I've taken your course before, but like for me, this is game changing. So in a selfish way, I'd like lots of people to learn with me, because truth be told, lots of people who combine on ideas together, like that's where I always get my most brilliant ideas. It's like, oh, I never thought about that one before. Truth be told, I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but I have literally stalked Tom Breeze around the world for figuring out how to run some YouTube ads. I like to say brilliant moments with Tom. I mean, literally, we were sitting in a car, as I mentioned before, with some of the world's top marketers, but we were talking about how to get an offer off the ground quickly. And Tom, if you remember right, I think we set up 3 or 4 cameras, got a whole bunch of raw footage from this. That was a pretty interesting conversation. But I remember literally like being a fly on the wall, listening how other people are getting up their offers as well. And well, quite honestly, Tom kind of dominated that conversation, because
I can't believe I was dominating that conversation when I was the only person that knew how to drive that car, and I was driving in the States, and I had to drive on the wrong side of the road for me.
That's true. You're on the wrong side of the road. We're in the mountains. We got cameras.
That's good.
Or the other thing is, like I said, following him to Fiji, Tom and I were asked to go to Fiji to talk to other agency owners as well, to really make sure you're crafting the right video for the right offer as well. I mean, when you're really talking about this kind of scale with Tom, you can't just really throw a video together. But as Tom says, it doesn't have to be highly edited either. You know, the other thing it comes down to is, how do we track results? You know, this is a huge thing for iOS. One of my favorite slides, and I've told Tom this story over and over because he's in the picture, is literally this picture here is of people at Baby Bathwater, one of the masterminds that Tom and I are in. And the kid, or the adult over on the left-hand side, his name's David Sinek. He has one of the world's largest paleo blogs. Person right next to him, Mike Rhodes, one of the world's top Google advertisers, as I mentioned before. Kevin Milani sits right between Tom and Mike. Kevin, the #1 Google ad advertiser out there by Google. There's Mr. Tom Breeze. And then, of course, we have over here is Mr. John Belcher, who used to work for YouTube. They're all sitting here talking about tracking, and all of them are talking about not the most world's accurate tracking, but how they accurately measure results. Very different two things that I just said. Trying to figure out the perfect ad at the perfect time for the perfect person, or trying to figure out the right signals to make the right adjustments. There is no perfect tracking. All the world's top experts can agree on this, but what I will say, the way that Tom looks at measurements literally blows my mind, because there are some things I can pull up on our golden ad report for Facebook, but the numbers aren't the same, and they mean something different over on YouTube. Other thing is how do you target that perfect audience? Well, I've seen Tom sit down and actually work with people one-on-one to figure out those perfect audiences. The other thing is I mean, people do fly from all around the world. There's probably about 40 people here in a tent on top of a mountain sitting by a lake. I know sometimes we have to work really hard. Listening to Tom talk about how he's optimizing. There's actually one guy, if I'm right, Tom, the person in the front row, no, the person sitting in the back row is someone who's done a lot of affiliate stuff, who has their own agency. You'll know who this is. It's kind of, as I said, this is somebody who does $50, $60, $70, $80,000 for an offer within a month on small little gadgets. And these people who really want to learn from Tom on how to scale. So the other thing is how do you build that perfect video for your perfect audience? And sometimes those videos start running out. How do you make additional offers as well? Well, what do if we want to provide the best user experience? I'll tell you one thing, just one idea from Tom and Dennis Yu. I mean, Dennis Yu is the person who gave me the idea for the $1 a day. It was Tom, Dennis, and myself sitting in Austin where it came up with the idea is give away all your trading for free. And that was the Facebook group that started over 6,000 people. And that was one idea from Tom. Now, I will tell you, stalking Tom around the world has been a big adventure for me. I really like it. Sometimes it gets a little creepy, but I will tell you, applying what Tom says has really made us a lot of money, and I'm looking forward to even do more. The main thing is I wanted to introduce you to this. We're going to introduce YouTube Quick Start Live. Essentially, what we want to do is we want to help people get started. Truth be told, Tom has an agency where people are spending thousands of dollars a day. Tom has an opportunity in a program to help people get up to $1,000 a day. But helping people get started from the very beginning, started to work out the little quirks to get up to $1,000 a day, Tom actually doesn't have anything that really kind of offers that. And that's why we're putting this together here. What we want to do is we're putting together 4 live training sessions to dive deeper into each one of these segments that we've been talking about. So step 1, the perfect offer. It's like I talk about in the belt. If you have an ugly baby, something that your family and friends tell you is cute, but nobody else is buying, it can be really expensive over on YouTube and on Facebook. So you want to make sure you have that perfect offer. Now, lean video ads. The thing is you want to make sure that your video ads, as Tom was talking about before, are not highly overproduced, can be shot really quickly, and can start to give you some really quick results for a low amount of ad spend. The biggest thing is how are we going to set up the measurement setup? I know that we're getting leads or we're going to try to get some sales, but there has to be other numbers that we're looking at to make sure that we're in the right ballpark. So if we're not getting sales or leads, what are the small things to tweak? Well, we got to set up that measurement first. So week 1 is going to be 60 minutes class instruction, and then 30 to 60 minutes Q&A. And when I like to say 30 to 60 minutes of Q&A, we'll stick around when all the questions are answered. Tom's a great trainer. Usually there's not more questions after 30 minutes, but again, we are here happy to stick around to help you get this implemented. We're also going to give you some homework guides and next steps, give you some stuff to do to make sure that you're implementing this. Now, we're going to start classes on Monday, June 7th. Week 2, we're going to do the measurement evaluation again. And what we're going to do is then find that perfect audience. We're going to see, did you start running some ads? What do those measurements look like? Did you set up your reports? We're going to find that perfect audience, we're going to build, optimize, and scale. I mean, the ultimate goal here is to get you to $1,000 a day profitably. Again, you don't have to do that tomorrow, but if you start thinking about if you can put $1,000 in to make $1,500 out, or $1,000 in to make $2,000 out, you can start reinvesting that money quickly. But how do you get to the point to spend $1,000 a day profitably? We'll help make you that plan. We're also going to do some self and group evaluation at the end of week 2, figuring out what are your best next steps. Do you need to tweak your offer? Do you need to tweak your video? So again, we're going to have 60-minute in-class instruction and then 30 to 60 minutes live Q&A, homework and next steps. Week 2 is going to be that following Monday, June 14th. Now, week 3, we're going to come on in and we want to take a look at what people are implementing. What are your early numbers looking at? Let's make sure that, again, Tom is not hired one-on-one for coaching advice. He does have some additional programs, but Tom's one-on-one time to bend his brain is really what we're looking in here. Let's reevaluate your numbers early. Let's get some suggestions from Tom on how to make those better videos, and let's get profitable first. And then we're going to scale with audiences that move on to better creatives and even improve the user's experience. So the other thing we want to do is we want to introduce new offers. I mean, that's one of the things that we're doing here with you. Most of you have found out about this webinar because you're in our middle of funnel from our, what you know as Hot 28. So this is an additional offer. We want to show you how to do the same thing too. See, offers can burn out over time, but when you're building this rapport with people, sometimes you just reposition the offer just a little bit or make an additional offer to really recoup a lot of that ad spend. The other thing is designing for the user experience. We want to give the best experience for high conversions without burning any unnecessary money or processes. You know, one of the things that I've really learned from Tom is we're talking about frequency and how often people are seeing your videos. People usually have the wrong settings set up and people just see the same ad over and over and over and over. What Tom does is give a really unique experience regardless if you buy or not. And it's one of the things that you just really have to experience to see exactly how those customers flow. Week 3, again, is going to be 60 minutes of in-class instruction, 30 to 60 minutes live Q&A, some homework and next steps. Now, week number 4 is honestly one of my favorites that I'm looking forward to. We're going to remeasure, or we're going to reevaluate, of course, where you're at. So at this point, you should be running some ads. You have some numbers that we can take a look at. let's review where you are and make the best steps and basically give you some best suggestions for what to do next, right? For the results that you're looking for. And let's take a look at your perfect offer. Is there any tweaks that I can offer, that Tom can offer? Is your offer performing? Sometimes just brainstorming with other people who have seen lots of different offers can give you those one or two small little distinctions to make a huge difference, especially at writing better video ads. Let's get that thing performing for you as well. The other thing is how are you leveraging your videos and how are they performing? So let's talk about some examples, some best practices. Again, this is really hands-on and not just listening to recording. Also, we are going to do an additional session on how to set up your YouTube retargeting ads at the end of week 4. One of the things I really like about Tom is he really talks about direct response. Let's fine tune that direct response, add in the retargeting that we're used to for like the Hot 28, and this thing just takes off like gangbusters. Basically what this is going to be is this is going to be less instruction and more hands-on for week 4, but we're going to tie that up with a bow. Now, we're also going to give you 60 days of live support inside of our dedicated Facebook group. So if you have any questions whatsoever, Tom and I will be in there along the way. You're also going to get all the recordings of the classes uploaded into a membership site. So the membership site we use is Kajabi, so you can log in from your phone, you can listen to it, kind of like a podcast. You can log in from really anywhere that you want. If we have any additional resources or guides that Tom talks about, we'll make sure we put them all back in one place for you. And you can easily keep track of your team's progress on these video trainings. Again, our goal here is to help people who have never run an ad, or maybe they just need to tweak some of their YouTube ads to start getting started. So this is a great training, I know, for my internal employees in our agency. It's actually one of the reasons we wanted to film this with Tom. It's going to be a great resource for our employees and other people that we bring on as well to train them. Again, any additional resource links or anything else that you need, we'll make sure that we add inside of the membership training area. So let's talk about the breakdown here real quick. 1 week of live Q&A. Well, I'm $500 an hour. Tom's $1,000 an hour. But let's just do real world prices instead of inflating stuff. Week 1, $500. Week 2, $500. Week 3 is definitely worth $500. Week 4 is easily worth $500. You're also going to get a 1-year membership to our access to the membership site for all the replays. You'll get the Facebook Live group support for 60 days. It's worth $500. Total retail value, real world value that people pay is $4,000. It's interesting, those prices just changed. I just mentioned that's fine. So basically, here's what ends up happening. We got a 30-day money-back guarantee. What we're going to do is, but wait, there's more. I always want to make sure that you get started right away. The thing is the reason that we do these types of trainings, we have something called Fast Start. So does Tom. Well, this is a quick start. How do we get started right away quickly? Well, that's the whole goal, is we want to get you up and running ads. So by the end of the summer, you are rocking and rolling on your YouTube ads. So it's not tomorrow, it's not next week, it is right now. I'm going to give you another bonus to make this even sweeter. We have something called the Hot 28. Well, the Hot 28 is our middle of funnel that we take for anything that we don't make money on direct response. And this is how we keep following up with people. I'm going to show you how we set up the Hot 28 for YouTube as Tom's look over my shoulder to make sure that I'm doing it right. But I'm going to show you how we run that Hot 28. Well, how powerful is the Hot 20? Well, that's a $500 value. Well, how powerful is the Hot 28? I'll show you that we essentially got almost 600 people registered for this webinar. I'll show you how we took our middle of funnel with Facebook ads and with YouTube ads and how we drove those registrations. I've documented 4 videos to break this down to literally show you how we set up our middle of our funnel retargeting on Facebook, how we set up our middle of the funnel retargeting on YouTube, how we target that, what the stats are. I'll record one more video once this entire promotion's done so you can see soup to nuts exactly how everything's done. So if you run webinars or have clients who run webinars, trust me, these 4 and the 5th video that I'll add once it's all wrapped up, priceless. That's a $500 value. I'm also going to give you $100 off just for getting started with this right away. So really, when you break everything down right here, it all really comes down to close to $5,000 in real world value. So you're not going to pay $5,000 today. You can easily see how other programs like that are 4, 5, 6 weeks or $2,500, you're not going to pay that either. Even $999 is pretty popular. We want to get more people up and running and started. So you're not going to pay $999 either. What we are going to do is when we release this to the public, we're going to record this whole thing first. The whole thing is going to be turned into evergreen. So you get all the live Q&A. We will price this at $500. I mean, $499 to be exact. And after midnight on Sunday, that's going to be the price is $499. But for all of you amazing people who showed up live today, you're not even going to pay $499. It's $399. You just have to join by Sunday by midnight to qualify. You just go to the belt.live/breeze. Again, that's the belt.live/breeze. It's going to take you over to our secure shopping cart. It is actually military encrypted. You can go ahead and put in your information. Once you put in your information, Nick's going to automatically, or our magic system is going to automatically send you registration links to all of the upcoming classes that I mentioned. So you'll be automatically registered. We're also going to send you directly right into the Facebook group. I'll have some other activities for you in the Facebook group to help you get started as well. But this is one of the ways to plug directly into Tom. Now, you could rent my time for an hour for $500. Tom doesn't even really charge for his time because he's pretty swamped with his agency and his ad buyers club that he has. But if you want to bend Tom's ear in 4 different sessions and really dive deep to get your YouTube ads up and running, I highly encourage you to take advantage of his quick start right now at $399. Again, it's the belt.live/breeze. Again, join by Sunday at midnight. You'll get all of those other bonuses. Plus, you get the $100 off. You just have to join by Sunday at midnight, like I mentioned. Live classes start June 7th. Tom, I'm happy to take any Q&A if you want to talk, take questions here, if you want to jump back in. I think Tom and I had talked is everything Tom's trained up to this point, anybody on the call can do, regardless of experience. And again, we're happy to help you dive in deeper. What Tom's going to be talking about next is for those individuals who are spending a couple hundred, maybe even $1,000 a day for these key distinctions. So we didn't want to overwhelm people at first. We wanted to show everybody that they have an opportunity to get involved in YouTube, especially now. And then we want to give a little extra training for those people who are starting to tweak their ads as well. But Tom, I will bring you on now Tom and Nick, if we want to answer some questions. Or Tom, do you want to dive right back into your presentation? What works best for you, sir?
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, so I'm happy to dive back in. I've got loads of content to share with people. I do want to make sure that people know that when it comes to this training, this is all about, like, as Kurt quite rightly says, it's quick start, right? We want to make sure that you, with minimal effort, let's say, there's going to be some level of effort, of course, because you're going to be running some YouTube ads, and so it's not going to be kind of something you just sit back and it all happens magically. You're going to have to put some work in, of course, but it's going to be like streamlining this as much as possible. So you're not sitting there thinking, oh my word, I've got hours and hours of homework here. We'll do it quick. We'll work through this quickly. Like, as an ad buyer, I don't have that much time. And I'm sure you don't either. You want to get in, get out, get the essentials done properly so you can run really profitable campaigns and scale. I can never guarantee results. I don't know what business you're running or anything like that. I hope you know that. I hope this is not it's not one of those offers that you hear from the gurus out there and all that sort of good stuff. Like, I'm going to give you the best education I can give you, and streamlined so you know how to implement it and it doesn't overwhelm you. And at the same time, I want you to know that this is the world of advertising. It's not always straightforward, and I'm going to be there to help you through this period. So if you are happy to put some work in, my word, we're going to help you. We're going to really get you to the point where you can run some really effective YouTube ads.
Tom, real quick, this is kind of a common question, and I'm happy to switch my screen back over to you. People always ask about a time commitment here. And so just to be clear, once a week we'll meet for 60, really probably 45 minutes of training. The rest of the time is going to be Q&A. And again, you can pick up the replays anytime that you want. But truth be told, when I start launching middle of funnel ads to start testing, I go to YouTube first because they're actually faster and easier to set up and run. Tom, do you want to talk about that? Does it take hours to implement everything that you're talking about? How much time does it take in a week to implement some of the stuff we're training on?
So in terms of like the research, like some people go into like Google Ads trainings and things, and like, okay, I've done my 6 weeks worth of research about my, like, no, I'm not like that. I like get started now. So I move quick and I spend money very wisely. So I'm not going to go and spend, and just so you know, the way that I run with clients is that I spend my own money and clients pay for results. And so I'm spending my own money on a daily basis. So I wouldn't say I freak out about it, but I'm definitely like not wanting to waste anything at all at any stage. This is like, I might make sure that I know how to run this, and I teach my team how to run this as well. And I teach a lot of other people how to run YouTube ad campaigns. So it's not like my first rodeo with teaching people how to get the most amount of success, but it doesn't take that long. Like, there's the one piece that takes a little bit of time is creating the video, right? That's that one piece that's inevitably going to be a little bit more effort, but that's only down to putting a camera on and then the edit of that as well. So I'd say that beforehand, it might be worth lining up an editor. And if you need help with the production, then getting that lined up as well. But really you can get started really, really quickly. So I would say get those pieces ready to go. So when you've done your concepts and your storyboard and you've done your script, and we'll talk about this in just a second, you're going to be in a place where you can execute really, really fast. And then once you've got your ad and you've got a great ad and you've got maybe some variations of that ad, you're golden. Now it's just ad buying. You just into the account and pushing the buttons. And that piece is actually really, really quick. So yeah, you're good to go as soon as we have that.
One of the things that you mentioned, Tom, and I can do this in the free group because I do know that we get started, about a week and a half from now. And just to help people get started, you had said something about, a film editor. You and I have kind of joked around this about a little bit, and we've had some mutual clients. I love using different things like a promo.com. And I'll be happy to film some videos inside there to show people how to do promo. One of the favorite things I've done, and maybe you would have seen this as I picked this up, I've designed a lot of videos like I did this presentation here in Canva. So I make a lot of videos in Canva. They have lots of great background B-roll. And for even our YouTube promotions that we did with you, it was in Canva where you sent over a 1-minute video. I created a couple of slides before the 1-minute video and after the 1-minute video, just like you do in your instructions. And I have no video editing experience, and I just do a quick little voiceover. Within about 10 minutes, I have a video that's made. And I'd be happy to share some of those creative ideas inside of the group to help get people's ads up and running. That's how I get videos cranked out, a couple of, 5, 6, 7, 8 videos in a day pretty easily. Happy to share that.
Well, maybe we should do a training on that as well, Kurt. We'll add that to the list.
I can absolutely add that to the list. Love to.
And just to give people context as well, so I'm working with a brand at the moment that spends $4.5 million a month on YouTube ads, and they know what they're doing, right? So if you're going to spend that sort of money, you know what you're doing. Their best performing ads are shot on an iPhone, and it's no one on camera. It's just pointing at the products and talking. So really, you can simplify this whole process really, really to an easy level. You can get really complicated if you want to, but you can simplify it. But it's the understanding behind this is the concept. If you understand the concept of the ad and what you're trying to do, rather than writing a script and everything else like that, it's just sometimes just asset collection. You're saying oh yeah, I did this thing a little while ago. I've got a video of me doing that actually. Perfect, done. That's that piece of the video done. And then you can just do a little bit of voiceover around it or something. It's really actually quite simple when you kind of put your mind to it of how to create really simple ads that work incredibly well. And that's why we're looking to keep things on a shoestring budget. I don't want people to feel like they have to go and get a videographer or learn some amazing editing skills or keep it simple, get great ads going. And then once you might start making profit, reinvest it in creating some higher production if you really want to, but it's not needed.
Makes perfect sense to me. Is there any other questions, Tom, that you want to take here? Do you want to jump right back in the training? What works best for your time schedule, sir?
I'd say, well, let's jump back into the training, and then because I'm sure people want to get to the advanced piece, and it won't be long, but then we'll kind of go back into Q&A after that, if that's good with you.
Absolutely. I just went ahead and stopped sharing my screen so you can take it back over, sir.
All righty, let's crack on. Okay, so there's some secret math that will simplify things for you and give you kind of a much clearer picture. So we've done right brain thinking with creative, we've done left hand brain thinking with measurement, and now we're going to math of the past. If you're British, you call it maths with an S on the end, but I've been very accommodating to you guys in the US. So we're going to call it secret math in this instance. But it's weird and it's sort of backwards that allows you to maintain stability as you grow, scale, and profit. So let me just put this out there right now. Do not worry if this gets complicated or it feels like it gets there's too many things to think about. You do not need to learn this to run really effective YouTube ads. I want you to know it's in your back pocket, and you might get some distinctions here that really help you. And this is not just for YouTube ads, by the way. This is for any type of advertising and marketing. I come from a psychology background. So whenever I look at marketing, I'm thinking about the mindset of the customer and what really makes them tick and what really makes them make decisions. So if you learn this and apply it to something else, like your website or Facebook ads or anything like that, amazing. That's what I want to provide to you. I'm just going to have a YouTube spin on it for the time being, and this will really help you. So let's just quickly go into some secret math, because with this, it just simplifies advertising completely. So when it comes to your numbers, you're going to have your CPA. Okay, so your cost per acquisition. That's going to be of a sale or a lead or whatever action you're asking people to take and that you're measuring. And this could be your major milestone metrics, your MMM, or whatever it is. But it's just your cost per acquisition of some step, right? And with that, the formula for that is your cost divided by your conversion. Okay, so cost per conversion. That's pretty simple so far, right? Nothing crazy. Now, if we were to translate this into more advertising speak, we're going to look at this as your CPM, your cost per 1,000 impressions, divided by your click-through rate, your CTR, multiplied by your post-click conversion rate. So anything after the click. So it's just like saying how, whatever the milestone is, let's say, for example, it's a sale, how many of those clicks turn to sales? Okay, this is slightly oversimplifying things, but I love to look at it like this. It's a 30,000 foot view of these three numbers. Those are the only three numbers that you want to be influencing to get better results with your advertising. Okay, I'll put a key there to make it easier. Oh, sorry, the key was here just a second ago and then it disappeared on me. I didn't think it was going to do that. All right, so you've got your cost per 1,000 impressions, your click-through rate, and your post-click conversion rate. Okay, now if we take this formula here, what happens when you start increasing spend? Okay, well, you can get ad fatigue. I'm sure we've all experienced that as ad buyers before. You show the same ad over and over again, and before you know it, it doesn't perform quite as well any longer. Okay, that'll hurt your click-through rate. Your click-through rate will start to decline at that point. Oh, not decline. Yeah, decline. It'll start reducing its impact. So that'll equal a lower click-through rate, and it'll end up equaling a higher CPA. That's just pure math there. If that number gets lower, then the CPA goes up. Okay, that's inevitable. So most people are always looking to create new ads to keep things fresh and run things in that way. Now, you also over time can get offer fatigue. So if you keep on promoting the same offer over and over again, and people get savvy to it, this will decrease your post-click conversion rate. Okay, so you might still get people to the website. They're like, it's this thing again. I don't want it. I've said no to it. I don't want it. And so your conversion rate will decrease over time. Now, the lower post-click conversion rate equals a higher CPA. Again, maths coming together there. Now, you also, and this is the thing that most people forget, is you also get audience fatigue. Okay, so audience fatigue, we're all familiar with it, right? I'll tell you why you're familiar with it, but this will impact your CPMs. So your cost of advertising will go up as you have audience fatigue, because there's certain markers that will, your lower engagement rate. And as a result of lower engagement rate, you're going to have a higher CPM. It's like you get penalized for bad ads. And as a result of that bad ad, you can have like this rising CPM. But also audience fatigue is going to hurt all those numbers because your click-through rate will decrease and your post-click conversion rate will also decrease. Okay, so all of it just starts working against you. Now, that'll equal a higher CPA. So you've got these three numbers that always have a problem as you scale. And we've all experienced it with Grammarly. Okay, Grammarly ads on YouTube, probably the most overdone ad that I've been aware of in recent history. We've all seen other ads from other people. Ty Lopez used to do it. Not so much any longer, I don't know. I haven't seen him quite so much. But Grammarly have been the king of oversaturation recently. And you can see like the comments underneath their videos, like, I hate that I have Grammarly. I hate that I already have Grammarly, but I still get ads corrected with Grammarly. These are literally all the ads I get when I'm trying to watch a video. There's no way I just got Grammarly ad before this video. There was an ad about Grammarly literally in this video. I didn't even notice. So that's the thing, is that people just become blind to your brand if you start oversaturating people. Okay, so we've got to think about what we're going to do as we scale. So these are the three numbers. Audience fatigue, ad fatigue, and offer fatigue is kind of combined with those three numbers. Now, the way we handle this with ad fatigue, we're going to have to create more and better ads. Okay. With offer fatigue, we have to create more and better offers. And with audience fatigue, you have to control the user experience. However, if you control the user experience, you may not need to ever create new ads again or new offers again, potentially. Let me talk you through it. All right. So this is going to come down to the more advanced levels, step 6, 7, and 8. As I said, we're going to the more advanced stuff of YouTube advertising, but it's going to help you become a better ads buyer anyway. So even if you like check out from the fact that this is a YouTube ads perspective, you're going to still find this very, very valuable. So better video ads. This is going to change the game for you when it comes to creating videos. Okay. So this is the customer brain, right? And as we're all familiar, we've got right-hand brain thinking, we've got left-hand brain thinking. Right-hand brain thinking, a lot more creative, a lot more story-based, a lot more emotional. And it really is the part of us that drives most behavior. It's abstract, but it's the piece that really drives all behavior. But the left-hand brain thinking will be such that it wants to think that it's in control, but really it's just doing habits. It's doing the same thing over and over again. It's got patterns it follows. And I'm probably oversimplifying. Well, I know I'm oversimplifying it. However, there's a relationship between the left hand and the right hand brain thinking, but right hand brain thinking is like a lot more unconscious, and it's the part of us that drives all behavior. So how do we make these decisions? How does a user make decisions when they're watching any YouTube video or making a decision full stop? Well, you have this unconscious brain thinking. You've got to activate the unconscious brain thinking to begin with. Then you've got to, that's kind of like the right-hand brain thinking. Then with the conscious brain thinking, which is the left-hand brain thinking, it's much more logical. And that part of our brain, you need to make sure it's happy with the decision you're about to make. And then the last thing is your call to action. And we've got to put tension on somebody to make sure they make a decision. Because it's all good and well saying like, oh, I really feel like I want this thing. I'm happy to go buy it. But without tension, nothing really happens. And so we need that tension at the end of the video. So those three things are the steps that we need to take when it comes to running YouTube ads. So you might think, well, that's a bit abstract. How on earth do we do that? Well, let's break it down and make it a system for you. So we're going to have 3 acts, Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. These all work at these 3 different levels, okay? Now, we talked about educate. This still follows. Okay, so the scripting process of this still follows the same sort of process. But what we need to start off with in the ad is make sure we start with a decision-driving desire. Okay, it's a desire, emotion that people's going to feel that drives decision-making. Okay, now when we talk about this first act and this emotion that we've got to pull into, here's like a smorgasbord as such of emotions. Different things, but these emotions drive desire. Okay, these emotions are active. They are things that like, if I feel that, I want to do something. Okay, if I need, like on the top left hand, if I really need certainty about something and I crave it, I'm going to act. I'm going to do something about it, or at least want to do something about it. If I want to grow, or I want love, or I want to feel significance, I'm going to do something about it. Okay, these are very active emotions. They're not passive emotions. So let's give you an example. If I was to go and sell 4x4 vehicles, or if you, let's say, for example, you see a 4x4 vehicle sold on TV, that 4x4 vehicle, that kind of like off-roading vehicle, will be shown climbing a mountain, or it'll be going off-roading and getting to a secluded beach where the driver gets out, grabs their surfboard and goes surfing. Or maybe gets to the top of the mountain and then goes skiing or goes hiking or does something adventurous. And what we're doing in those videos that we run on YouTube and run on TV is that you're showing the user that you will feel adventure when you buy this product. That's like the promise that they're sending to you to say, if you buy this product, if you buy this car, you will feel adventure and maybe feel adventurous and maybe even feel like you become someone adventurous as well. Maybe even become part of your identity, perhaps. But that's what they're promising you. And this is undeniable from your unconscious brain. Your unconscious brain is like, I am in. I want to have adventure in my life. And in order to get that, I need this car. That's what your unconscious brain is thinking. And we got to think about that when it comes to our customers. So let me give you an example of what that'd be in a minute. So this is where we're starting to come up with concepts, right? So I'm starting to think of concepts here. And this is one of our clients who works in teaching people how to play piano. She is phenomenal. Her name is Carmen Moran. She's just such not only is she an amazing human, she is so talented, like ridiculously talented. Like if I was ever to learn piano, it'd be definitely be from her. And I was talking to her and I said, okay, well, what would happen when your customer learns how to play piano? Like how will they feel and what do you want them to feel and what do they want to feel? And we talked about it for a long time and we came to the conclusion that what they really want to feel, and this is kind of a bit of a soul searching question sometimes, what they really want to feel is creative freedom. They want to feel like they can sit down at the piano and just lose themselves and all of a sudden just be transported to a new place where they feel like they can be creative. They're completely free. They're in their own space. They're in that state of flow. They're in the zone. They're just feeling amazing. And time seems to get distorted. Like they could feel like they've been playing for 5 minutes and they look at the clock and they've been spending an hour just noodling away on the piano. Okay, you can probably tell that I'm not a piano player. However, when I was talking to her, I was like, okay, cool. I feel that we're onto something here. Creative freedom. Yeah, I get it. And I said to her, what would happen if you slept tonight and had a dream and there was no restrictions in your dream at all? But what would happen if you just experienced complete creative freedom on the piano? Where would you be? What would you be doing? Paint me that picture. And she said to me, okay, the way I see it is that I see myself at a piano on the beach with waves like lapping over my feet as I'm playing and just like losing myself. And I was like, I can imagine it. Yeah, I can see it now. And then I said to her, can we take your piano down to a beach? And that's the stretch, right? I was like, I don't know if that's going to be possible or not. And she says, we probably could, but these pianos are worth like over $100,000. And if I take it down to the beach, it'll ruin it instantly. It'll kind of like break everything. The salt air would, and the wet and the sea would just destroy it. And I was like, okay, cool. That's probably not the shoot that we want to go for. And so I said, well, where else can we take it? Where else would you feel that complete creative freedom? And this is what we came up with. So she took it to the bottom of this mountain. She was moving house at the time, which is really fortunate. And the removal men did it. But you can see here that we take this piano to the bottom of this mountain. It's in this meadow. There's a lake running by, birds chirping. There's like these everglade or evergreen trees in the background. And she sits down at the piano. And immediately as a piano player, you're like, I want to be there doing that thing. I want to be her. I want to be doing that. I want to feel that emotion. Imagine feeling that. And then you see this like big snow-peaked mountain, and it's just beautiful. And then she starts talking to you. Now, what we're doing in the early part of this video is we're just grabbing people's unconscious brains and we're saying, you want to feel this? You want to feel complete creative freedom? I can't think of a better place to show this. And immediately you'll just suck it in. You're like, my unconscious brain, my right-hand brain thinking has to see this, whatever's going on here. I just need to feel this emotion. And I'm feeling it. I love it. And you're in. Okay. Now, that's what I want you to think about when it comes to your video ads. Okay. What emotion do your customers need to feel? And how can we portray that? And immediately you can start to see that like your copy has nothing to do with that. Your script writing and your has nothing to do with any of this. It's like, what can we show? What can we make people feel? Words are not going to do that very effectively. Vision and visuals and like audio and poignant moments or the feeling of nostalgia, you can't put that down into words sometimes. It has to be what you're seeing, what you're feeling. So this ad works insanely well, by the way. And so we've got this kind of emotion at the very start of the video. Now, as soon as we've done that, the right-hand brain thinking is like, I am in, I want this thing. I'm suck it in, I want it. And we've all had this, right? We all buy products because we're like, I need it, I want it. I feel emotionally connected to that thing. I need it in my life. And it doesn't make any sense. And you can never justify it to your partner or significant other. You're just like, I bought it. It's a thing that I wanted. I got it. And I'm sorry, but I bought it. All right. And there's never a logical decision within it. That's decision making. But it's helpful if we do appease that conscious brain as well. So there's a logic to decision making that is not good to ignore it, because there's going to be like objections and there's going to be things that need to be satiated in your brain for you to feel comfortable making that decision. So we do that with logic and values. Okay. So basically all we're doing in Act 2 with the conscious brain is we're just justifying the decision that Act 1, your unconscious brain, has already decided. Okay. So you've already decided you want that car. You've already decided you want to learn that piano technique from Carmen. You've already decided you want that drill because because you just know you're not going to look a fool when you try and do your DIY at home or something. You already know why you're buying something. Like deep down emotionally, you want it. Okay. Act 2, we're just justifying why you're making that decision. And so you can feel like, okay, cool. I've got an excuse now. I can go do this now. So you're going to want to have some assets. And here the assets are going to be things like your backstory and your point of view, like your point of view on the world, talk about how your company thinks about things and like get people aligned. We talked a little bit about this earlier with the backstory. You want people to feel like, hey, yeah, you built a whole brand, a whole product line about solving this problem for people. That's amazing. And build up that credibility that we talked about as well. Like where have you featured? What the results you've got? And give a demonstration of how it works. Let people know about this. And all the time what you're doing is you're basically allowing people to feel like, okay, cool, I can see this coming to life. Now, logically, it's starting to tickle the boxes like, oh, it does work. Oh, they can be trusted. Oh, look, they built a whole brand around this. That's great. Logic, boxes are being ticked. Your conscious brain is getting happy, but also your values needs to be aligned as well. So what's important to you? And this is your point of view again, but your values, sometimes that gets wishy-washy. It really doesn't need to be. Your values is what you stand for and what you stand against. Those two things. Decide where you're going to be on that, okay, as a brand. Like, what is it you stand for? What is it you stand against? And when you decide those things, it makes your brand so much more powerful. It makes your offer sound amazing. Okay. You got to make sure you put your stake in the ground and say, that is what I stand for, and I will not compromise. Okay. Because people really, really love that confidence in your opinion as well. All right. So logic and values justification. That's what we're doing in Act 2. Now, just to give you an example of what that might look like, this is selling a golf training. So how will this work? Oh, let's go back for a second. Sorry, I missed that. Let's go back here. All right, so here's a video. How will this work for you? We're showing how this technique will help you stop slicing the ball. And so we've got like the number one, I'm going to show you how to do the first step. Number two, it's all about getting your balance right. And number three, it's about muscle memory. And by having it in a 3-step process, it feels like, well, I can do that, but it aligns with the values of the golfer because they're feeling like, oh, I can do this because it's not too much thinking. That's one of the biggest objections that people have is like, well, I've got to think about 400 different things when I'm standing over the ball. This just simplifies it. 3 things, I can learn that. And then we're justifying to say, look, we did a study and 213 out of 215 golfers got the result. They did this, and we've got this like beautiful collage of all these different golfers achieving this result. So when we show this, it really kind of justifies all that decision making you made from agreeing that in Act 1, you're all on board. Now, when you do this, you also want to move into Act 3, and you want to use something called identity tension. Now, this one's quite an easy one once you get it, but it takes a bit of explaining. So identity tension is basically saying during the video, you're going to tell people who they're going to become, and they're going to own that new identity. You're helping them transform into somebody new, right? You're giving them a new identity, that status. They might feel part of a group, and within that group, they need to behave in a certain way. Okay, if we're going to upgrade our skills as an ad buyer, for example, like right now, if you buy ads on Facebook or any other platform, and you are an ad buyer and you consider yourself one, and you want to become a ridiculously good ad buyer, and you want to excel your skills, and this is the sort of like program we're talking about here, you become like a pro ad buyer because you just don't know, you're not just like pulling all your eggs into one basket, one platform. You're starting to expand it and get understanding of what it takes to make it work on other platforms, and you become more well-rounded, but you have different insights, and it allows you to really accelerate your learning and upgrade your learning as an ad buyer. It makes you much, much better, and you're going to have a longer future in the industry as well. And you become that person. You become part of a group. You become part of an elite group as well. And by doing that, there is certain actions or certain behavioral norms that a great ad buyer would do. And what are those things? Well, they continue educating themselves. They continue learning. All great ad buyers get into the weeds, and kind of, yes, it can be a little daunting sometimes to go and learn a new discipline, but it's needed. We've got to adapt or die, basically. And so whenever it comes to this, we're setting out the behavioral norms of whatever this new status and this new identity your customer will adopt, basically. So it's like saying, you want to buy that car? You want to become more adventurous? Well, adventurous types tend to do this type of behavior. Okay, so I'm sure we're getting it from a behavioral norms perspective. Now, when you do that, you're saying, if you want to really be the adventurous type, and that's who you consider yourself to be, now's your time to prove it. Okay, so it's less of a call to action and more of a call to being. You're saying, if you want to be that person, you want to really be that person, then here's your kind of first test. Let's give you some tension around your new identity. Can you pass the first test? Okay, and that's where you're asking people to take that micro commitment with you. Click the link, go through to the site, take the action that we're asking you to take, and prove it to yourself that you can do this. This is why so few people cancel a gym membership or something along those lines, even though they never go to the gym. is because they think, well, if I do that, that's an action that goes against the identity that I once adopted to say, I'm going to be healthy this year. I'm going to lose some weight this year. I'm going to bulk up this year. All those intentions we had in January that now maybe like, oh, I didn't really do that, did I? Well, we're still not going to cancel the gym membership because that's giving up on that identity. You can hold on to that identity if you wish, if you just don't cancel that gym membership. So your actions and your behaviors align with who you want to be and who you are. And so this is the same thing. We're giving people this earlier in the video, we're giving people an identity to say, you're going to be that person. You can be that person, and you really can be, and you can be that elite level. You can be part of this community. And as a result of that, it's like, you just need to act or behave in a certain way. And this call to action aligns with that. This is your first test. That will dramatically improve your conversion rates, not just on your video ad, but throughout the whole website that you've got as well. If you get that piece right and you know what that identity is, you'll absolutely kill it. So those assets you're going to want to have are things like reviews and testimonials. Show other people taking the action what action they took to achieve that result. Don't just say, hey, I've got this result. You want someone to say, I did this thing, which you're asking your viewers to do in the video ad. You say, I did this thing, I clicked the link, I joined that webinar, I bought, and I became a much better blah, whatever it is that you're selling. Tell people what they stand to gain and what they stand to lose as a result of taking action. What do they get? What they lose out on if they don't do this? And also, one thing that we do in our videos is we always add a countdown timer. We tested this a long time ago, and it works incredibly well. So we did these videos, and at the end of the video, well, you can see here, there'll be a little bit of sound here, but don't worry about that. But you can see here on the right-hand side, we've got this like countdown timer happening on the right-hand side. So this is a split test we did, and we bumped our click-through rates by 32% by adding the countdown timer at the end of the video. Now, since then, we've actually started making these timers a lot bigger on the video, and it works better. So the bigger the countdown timer, whilst keeping it on brand, normally the better the result. So it's things like that, the nuances like that can really just nudge the numbers in the right direction can really help. And that's all the stuff we want to be sharing with you as well in the course. Now in Act 1, because we're talking about assets, you also want to make sure that you've got some reviews potentially, that you can make claims around to say like, hey, this is what this person achieved. You can do the same thing. It might be some sort of quantifiable end result that you can achieve for people. Talk about those aims and those difficulties or those pains and turn them into claims, as I said. So you can say, you can do this with this product. And you might want to film many Act 1s to stitch onto your Act 2 and Act 3, because you might kind of solidify your Act 2 and Act 3 part of your video and be like, nailed that, that's fine, I don't need to touch those again. But you might do like multiple versions of Act 1 to improve the results there, and see which split test wins best. So it's like giving you loads of different options to create loads of different ads, and at the same time making it really easy, and just stitching on different intros to your videos. But once you've got these concepts, remember, we haven't written any scripts just yet. We're literally just collecting the assets and filming the bits we need and stitching it together afterwards. So that's going to help you create better ads. And then also what you want to do is make sure you're designing new offers. So if you've got a webinar, build a VSL funnel. And if you've got a VSL, build a survey funnel. Like, start giving different offers out, because once you've nailed it with one and you think, right, I've optimized this funnel, I've optimized the ads, it's going to become a point of diminishing returns. And at which point you want to start switching across to have a new offer, so you can switch gears whenever you need to, and it will just improve your results. So let's say, for example, you had a webinar and you might start focusing on doing a VSL, for example. And then once you've done step 7 and you've introduced new offers, then I would also design for user experience. And here's an example of what I mean, but because I like to try and give people a unique experience of the brands I promote every time we go to YouTube. And this is great for your numbers as well. So your CRMs, your CPMs will massively improve and keep really low when you're advertising like this. But let's say, for example, we showed this first video and we chose the best ad. And what we'd say is like, right, we're going to build an audience of these people, but only going to show them 2 or 3 impressions per week. We're going to keep the number of impressions per user down, so we're not oversaturating our market. Okay, so we can run almost like evergreen. And what it's going to mean is that if they decide to view the video past 30 seconds, because you don't have all the same metrics as you do on Facebook, but let's say, for example, they viewed the video past 30 seconds. Well, we're going to build an audience of those people, and for the next 7 days, have them on a viewer remarketing list. Okay, so they say, they watched that, great. Let's put them on a list. And we're also going to exclude those people from seeing the first cold ad again. So it means that once they've seen that ad, they don't see it again. It's like a unique experience, okay? And we're going to exclude those viewers for 14 days, meaning that they're not going to see the ad, but after 14 days, they could see it again. Now, with this in mind, we've got the 7-day viewer remarketing list, and it's got hallmarks of the belt method, I think, here as well. So we can talk about that in due course, Kurt. But now what we might want to do is say, right, well, we've got this 7-day viewer remarketing list here, and we can say, great, well, now let's show them the second ad. Let's show them a different ad, third ad. Let's show them a fourth ad. Let's show them the fifth ad. And at some point, we're going to realize like we sequence these ads in such a way where we give them this unique experience for this 7 days. And if they don't convert at the end of those 7 days, we're like, cool. All right, well, let's now, once we've got created all these new ads and even potentially promoting new offers, let's just go back for a second. What we're going to do is with this, we're giving them that unique experience for 7 days. And if they don't go and convert with our new ads and our new offers, then what we can do is say, well, they'll have a cooling off period for 7 days then, because they're going to be excluded from all campaign or from these campaigns for 14 days. So they're going to have 7 days of cooling off. They're not going to see us for 7 days anywhere. And then it all begins again. So you can, it depends on the brand you're working with and the type of promotions you're doing, but it means you can really build this evergreen system so that once it's built, you don't need to worry about kind of getting ad fatigue. You don't need to kind of worry about always creating new offers, and you don't have to worry about exhausting your audience. This gives you, you might not be able to scale as quickly to the point where you're spending $1 million a month or something, but you can start slowly and you can say, right, I'm building something that's going to be really profitable, very scalable, but super reliable. That's the biggest thing as ad buyers. If we've got reliable, if we wake up in the morning and feel like, I know everything hasn't gone to pot, I know I haven't got these strange ups and downs in my account, because there's a level of reliability in here, you're going to be in a great place. So we're kind of mitigating that ad fatigue issue. And the other great thing about YouTube also is that it's very, very rare that you can ever get your campaigns banned or lose an account or anything like that. So comparing it to Facebook, there's so many plus sides. And I love YouTube ads, but I do realize I'm pretty biased. So there is that. All right, so that's the 8 steps for YouTube ads, and really kind of what we want to help you do, and not going to do this overnight, of course, but I want to help you get the CPAs under control and start reducing that down so you feel like, right, this is really, really profitable, and then start scaling. We've done this with multiple brands time and time again. Once you know the keys to unlocking the system and making it work really well, and I'm going to share with you exactly this 8-step blueprint throughout the training, you're going to be able to put these wheels in motion. And I really, really hope that you take us up on the offer and join us in this program, because I can't wait to share it with you. And with Kurt and myself by your side, not only will it be a hell of a lot of fun, but also I think you're going to get a level of education that really isn't shared that often. And if you found this webinar useful, this is just scratching the surface. I'm looking forward to diving in deep with you guys and streamlining it, keep it easy for you, keep it fast for you, and keep it very profitable for you as well. This has been me, Tom Breeze. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll pass back to you, Kurt.
That is perfect, sir. I appreciate you very much. Hang on just one second. I actually need to go catch a plane here pretty soon. That was perfect timing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for just a second. Say hello to everyone else as well too. But you know, the main thing is you can see that I'm actually doing this in Canva, right? Happy to share with you how we use these, especially for our YouTube videos and stuff like that. But again, just to kind of close this one out as everyone is here, I'll turn off my camera just as we go over this part right here. You know, I'm really excited, like I said, personally, with the YouTube Quick Start. And essentially what we're going to do here is, just like I had mentioned before, is we're going to do 4 live training sessions with Tom, where we're really going to be able to dive deep. I mean, this is just a regular webinar we dove in almost 2 hours into, which is great. This is perfect. So again, if you want to join us, there is a secure link that Nick reminded me of at thebelt.live/breeze. And basically, just to recap of everything you're going to get, we're going to talk about week 1 to perfect that offer. Week 2, lean video ads. Again, Tom had mentioned this before. I say this to clients all the time. You can crank out lots of really quick videos. And Tom has a methodology on how to target where, by the way, Tom, you didn't mention this because I think you just do this so often that you forget about this as a benefit. You know, in Facebook, you cannot call out people. Hey, are you 35 to 40 years old who are looking to learn Facebook ads? Can't do that. can on YouTube. It's one of Tom's strategies on how to exactly, in a very ethical way, call people out. But you can make multiple videos really easy, speaking directly to your prospect. Again, of course, we're going to make sure that everything is all measured up so you know exactly where to look. I don't know about you, Tom, but I tell people all the time is, unfortunately, as I look at a lot of their numbers, and it looks like they turn stuff off either way too soon or they have let it run way too long. And both of those things are very expensive. So we'd like to make sure Tom helps navigate that with you. Again, we have the 60-minute in-class instruction, 30 to 60 minutes live Q&A. We'll give you homework and next steps. That class will start on June 7th. And then we're going to remeasure stuff when you come in as at week 2. Make sure we're really dialed in to find that perfect audience. I know that just from some of Tom's training and then other YouTube trainings that I've taken, like Tom said, start with a fresh, clean slate. I've tested lots of different suggestions and audiences. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Testing audiences that are unsuccessful costs you money. So testing lots of different great ideas from lots of different people, I'm just going to stick with and do exactly what Tom tells me to do. Other thing is to start to build, optimize, and scale. I mean, really, we're all on here to talk about traffic. This could be for you. Tom, quick question for you. Does this also work for local businesses? Someone who has a local shop, does this work for local businesses?
There is like a different approach to doing local, and I can definitely run through that at some point in the training. A lot of it's very, very similar, but there's going to be some nuances. But we can make a little interlude to go through that piece as well.
Great. Tom did kind of mention this just a little bit, but I want to reinforce this. You know, once you find some really good veins inside of Google, you can just keep on scaling and keep on running. It's not like every 2 or 3 days you're looking over your shoulder wondering, why did performance bounce around? What's going on? Because we're getting really specific who we're targeting. So optimizing and scaling is actually, truth be told, a lot less stressful than what you see over on Facebook. So the ultimate goal is to get you to $1,000 a day. So the goal that Tom and I talked about is, hey, at the end of this 4 weeks, what could someone accomplish? And Tom's like, well, I'd like to get people up to $1,000 a day and spend. I think that's a little aggressive. And Tom's like, it's not that aggressive. The reason is if people are following the right things and they're making money, you know, making small tweaks can make a huge difference. And that's why we want to have Tom on live to get you to that point. We want to do some self and some group evaluation, brainstorm, get you some different ideas to keep you running. Again, we're going to get some more instruction, some Q&A. And then week 3, let's revisit your measurements. Again, you're in a quick start. So this means you've been running some ads for 3 weeks. Let's talk about how they're running. Let's talk about the better video ads. Let's get profitable first, and then worry about scaling with audiences. And testing new things. We'll introduce new offers, just like we introduced Tom as a new offer to our group as well too. You know, because offers can burn out over time, but would you know you need new creatives? Is it a different offer? Do you tweak the front end, the back end? Again, someone with Tom who's run this much traffic, it's usually just a small little distinction of, oh, I've actually seen this before, and here's what I did next, which that is just invaluable. So we, of course, want to design for the user experience as well. We want to give the users the best experience without burning them out. Just like Tom had mentioned, yeah, there are some mutual people that we all know who got famous by seeing the same ad over and over and over and over. And Tom mentioned it, he alluded to it. He's like, well, I don't see that person advertising as much anymore. That's because they burned a whole bunch of money, got a whole bunch of attention. And now because they have attention, they stopped spending the money. But here's the big clue. If they were making money, those ads wouldn't stop. So you sell a whole bunch of ads of people who run a whole bunch of ads over and over and over, and because they're not converting and they stop right away, well, let's design a good user experience so people want to keep seeing your content. Again, week 3 is going to come in with that 60-minute instruction, and then the Q&A and instructions and homework. Week 4, as we round this thing out, we want to reevaluate everything that you're doing, making sure you're honing right on in, making sure that you're getting the best results for your unique situation. We want to protect your we want to perfect your offer. For the main reason being is, again, having that ugly baby can just get expensive. And how is your offer performing? Brainstorm with Tom and myself just to see how you can get your offer converting just a little bit more. Better video ads to keep you performing. Get your video ads up, rocking, and rolling. And then additional session of how to set up the retargeting properly as well too. I'll help take care of that. Again, week 4 is really all about just tying it all together, making sure that we're monitoring overall results. Again, you're going to get 60 days of support inside the Facebook group. You know, there was a question inside here that I saw, well, what happens after 60 days? Well, that's a really great question. Tom's time is really valuable. I kind of had to beg him just a little bit to, hey, let's get these 4 weeks done. So maybe after the 60 days, maybe there's a small monthly reoccurring charge if we did that, if for Tom to come in and answer questions. We haven't addressed that yet. So what I will tell you is this: when we always do support groups, when we have a lot of people sign up and a lot of people come in and start engaging with Tom, I could probably talk him into, hey, let's do some kind of monthly thing to really help people out. Or if people just don't use the support, and they just don't use the support. But what we're looking for is, please abuse the support as much as you can inside of the group. And then we'll figure it out after 60 days. If this is something that you have learned and you are off on your own, great. If this is something that you'd like to stick with us and kind of figure out how to get some questions answered, let's talk about that as we go through this. You are helping us build it before we turn it into evergreen, so we're happy to listen to your insight and support. Again, you're going to be able to access any of these trainings or replays inside of our membership site. It's going to be really easy. You can access on your phone or on your laptop or whatever. Any resource guides that I talk about, that Tom talks about, any links, like I mentioned, promo on this call, we're going to add all that to the membership site as well. And again, as you're training your internal teams, this is a great way to keep track and progress. Where are your teams at? What are they understanding? Again, any links or resources that can help you out, make sure we add those in there as well. So if you break everything on down as we did before, what ends up happening is it's pretty easy to, oh, that was nice. I did great there. It's a $5,500 value. So we give you our 30 days money back guarantee. So you have nothing to lose. Like if you listen to Tom's first couple of weeks and they just don't agree with you or it doesn't work for you, let us know. I mean, we have an extremely low refund rate because we offer really high value, but I want to let you know there's no risk if you decided to do this with us. And again, that bonus is if you start fast with us right now and get started, instead of, hey, let's do the wait and see plan, we're going to give you that quick start bonus of that hot 28 setup for YouTube. It's a $500 value. We'll give you the breakdown, how we run the whole promotion and how I got those links copied, interestingly, on there. And you'll get instant access to the 4 over-the-shoulder videos. Actually, Nick, I can upload those into the group once I get to the airport. They're always inside of another group, just to give some people some stuff to learn right away who are joining us today. It's a $500 value. And again, an additional $100 off as long as you join us before Sunday at midnight. Break that whole thing down, comes down to a $5,500 value. Of course, that's not what you pay, not even $2,500. This could easily be something at $9.99. Tom and I end up selling eventually. Again, this is going to be the time where Tom's live going forward in the Evergreen. Tom's not going to be live, but of course, that's not what you're paying today. $4.99 does happen after Sunday. We'll be running the promotion until Sunday at the price point of $3.99. And then starting as of Monday, Memorial Day, it'll be $4.99 all the way until class start on that following Monday. So $3.99 is your price right now. Again, you just have to join us by Sunday at midnight. Live classes will start June 4th. Other than that, there may be a couple of extra questions in here. I'm happy to answer these and your time, depending on how much time that you have. I know it's getting a little late over on your side of the pond. But if there's any questions, comments, concerns, divine revelations, love to be able to address those. And Tom, would you like me to go through some of these questions for you? What is the best way to tackle some of these great questions in here?
Let's do it. I know that you've got to catch a plane soon, so let's try and get as many as we can done before you have to leave. Not
a problem. All right, so let's go. Oh, there's a lot of, okay, so I'm really curious for all the people who are still on, there's still a ton of people here. For people who had never had experience before, a lot of ones in here when we asked, never had any experience. How many people here got an aha from going from no experience to having some ideas to get started? We get Tom some beer tickets.
Yeah, I need the beer tickets, guys.
Ones. Yeah, it's late over there, so yeah. Justin had a question here. Biggest question is the best place to start. Is there a recommended course or checklist that you have to make sure you're getting off to the right foot? Well, I would say we're going to rock and roll this thing here because that question was asked very early. But yeah, I mean, I think Justin asked that very early, and I think by the end he's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. How do you actually sleep without spending that kind of money a day? That's actually interesting. Really quick, you talk about large numbers sometimes, Tom. I mean, we're talking about literally people where they spend an entire car pay, like for an entire car, you're spending in a day, or some people's annual salaries. How do you temperament between, oh my goodness, I think I just spent someone's entire 401k?
Well, it'd be mine as well half the time.
That's true.
It's
your money.
Well, you see all this gray hair. I'm only 16. You know that. No, so like I suppose I've just got used to it over the years. Like, but the thing is that it's very direct response, right? So I'm very focused on getting money back from the money I spend, and I'm happy to test stuff. I don't lose money very often, and if I do, I turn it off pretty quick. But when I find a winner, it keeps on going. So it's crazy to think that like sometimes like that I tend not to try and think like that. It just becomes numbers, and it's a game for me in a weird way, but a very serious game. But a lot of the big spend sometimes is not just me. It'll be like so I've got the agency clients where we are funding our own cash, and then some of our consultancy clients will be spending their own money on their own accounts, but we'll be guiding them along the way. So some of the bigger brands we'll work with will be doing that. So it's not always my spend. Just so you're aware, it's like, even though it doesn't really matter to me, if it's a client spend or it's my spend, I still have the same anxiety. And the anxiety is not strong any longer because it's like I feel comfortable in the process I'm going through. But that's what I want to give to everybody else. It's like, here's the blueprint, do this. And yes, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but you can keep with the campaigns that do work, and so it kind of gives you that stability. And the vast majority of the campaigns you build should work very well. And if not, we'll fix it. That's the way that it works.
I can remember that when I bought my very first house right outside of Austin, Texas, it was $145,000. And obviously the most money I'd ever spent in my entire life at $145,000. Well, when I started running Facebook ads, this is back in 2010, 2011, we started running ads, and Nick and I started to get an offer to work. So we'd put in $100 and $105 would come back. We'd put in $100 and $95 would come back, put in $100. And pretty soon we're able to put in $115, $150, $200, $300. I'll never forget, after about 6 months of figuring this out, about 5 months of figuring this out, Nick and I end up going to Vegas. And I'll never forget this. We go to the affiliate summit. And I just have a fascination with human psychology, especially watching big gamblers. So I'm over there by the high ticket table, and I'm watching someone literally put in $100 bills to the slot machine, one right after the other, 100, 200. I remember sitting there counting it. And all of a sudden, it clicked in my head, 200, 300, 400. That's 80 leads. 80 leads translates to 3 sales. 3 sales, 497, 497. That's 1,500.
Yeah.
Why am I gambling anymore? This isn't even fun anymore. It's more fun on the math side. And I remember calling my mom a couple of months later, and I'm like, hey, Mom, remember how I spent $150,000 on a house? Yep. You want to take a wild guess what I spent on Facebook ads in the last 8 months? She's like, what? And I go, over $200,000. She goes, you don't have $200,000. How'd that happen? Well, you start with 100 and go to 150, 130. So the numbers start adding up, and then they just become numbers and maths at the end of the day. So really exciting with that. Okay. So another thing
I'm still stuck on the point that you said where you spent $145,000 on a house. Like in the UK, if you spend money on a house, it's like 4 million. It's even like anywhere close to buying a house in the UK.
So, $150,000 at the time, bought about a quarter of an acre, 3-story house, 1,500 square foot. Now I drive by it and I think it's worth 300. It's like, don't you wish you bought real estate?
If you ever come to London and look at a house there, it's like you can probably buy like a little cupboard attached to. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
covered in someone's room.
You couldn't do anything with that in the UK. It's pretty crazy over here.
Webinar registration. Amanda asked a really good question. So this is really unique compared to Facebook. So video ads are going to run. Now, is the link found in the ad itself? Do people have to click on the video to open the post like they do on Facebook? Can they even open the post to find the original video? Where does the link for the ad go with YouTube ads?
Yeah, so when you set up the ad on YouTube, so you just literally upload your video to YouTube, and then when you set up as an ad inside of AdWords, you literally just say, hey, I just want to run this ad. Let me share my screen with you and show you exactly what it looks like. I think you need to let me share my screen.
Stop sharing my screen for a moment. There you go.
All right, so this is the slide I showed earlier. Actually, no, I think I have to share my whole screen. 1 second. All right, so this is what the ad will look like. So you go to YouTube, you see the video like this. This is like what most people's interface would look like when they're on youtube.com. And then if you run an ad, it'll look like this. So you have, if you watch on the left-hand side here, this little white box comes out with a blue button. That's set up inside of Google Ads. So you literally just type in, well, there we've typed in Guitar Workshop, TonyPolacastro.com, little icon that's dragged through from the ad campaigns. And then you just choose what you're going to type in that blue box that says watch now. So it's literally just like, that'll be set up for you. You don't need, you just add the wording in there. And then, you're encouraging people to click that link to go to your site. And obviously there's a skip ad button in the bottom right-hand corner as well. So people often click that far more often than they do the link to the website, unfortunately. But that's where people click. And you set it up inside of the Google Ads platform.
Perfect. That is great. What else do we have in here? Let's see here. What does LP stand for? Landing page, where we're sending people back to is a landing page. Is there going to be a replay? Yes, we will send out the replay, but I always tell people, like I did in the email, Tom will not be here live, but that's what you got the replay for. But here's the point: to ask some questions, right? Get that man a beer ticket. Get that man a beer ticket. You said something important at 12:47 that some people are like, get that man a beer ticket.
Just once, just at 12:47. That was it. That was the whole thing.
So do you also warm up the pixel with YouTube ads by optimizing for reviews, kind of like you do in a Facebook Ads Manager, and then switch to leads?
Nah, keep it simple. Just run ads. Yeah.
Oh, so not even necessarily, it doesn't have to be like get views, then website clicks, and then leads, and then sales. You can just go straight for sales?
Yeah. It depends on at what point in the funnel it is. But yeah, it'd be a major milestone metric. You just optimize for that and you're off and running. There's no need to warm up your pixels. You don't even have to have any YouTube presence whatsoever. So if you've never done a video on YouTube ad before, you can literally just create a channel, put your video in there, and you're off and running. Like the actual container of YouTube is not that important in the whole grand scheme of things.
Great. All right. So let's see here. These are some great questions. Buy the man a beer ticket. Love custom audiences. This is gold. Give that man a damn picture of the finest beer. Love that statement. Yeah. So when basically someone searches on Google, once they get on YouTube, they'll see your ad once they click a video. But the videos, exactly. How does the video come up? It just comes up randomly, right?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, I've been searching for TVs or something, and someone's built a custom audience for best TVs or near me, TV store near me, or whatever it might be. And I've typed that in recently, and then I go to YouTube later that day or the next day. I'm not sure how long the time period is, but I'm in that kind of custom audience because I've searched that recently on Google. Then I go to YouTube. I could be watching cat videos or Joe Rogan podcast videos or something along those lines. And I get there, I'm like, hang on a second, this ad's just appeared in front of me. I'm still looking for a TV ad. Actually, this is really interesting. Oh, I might go buy it. So it's so relevant for you, but it's going to grab your attention. You're kind of like halfway between a window shopper and a search shopper, or a store shopper. You're kind of in that weird zone there where you weren't looking for it there and then, but you were recently looking for it, and that's great.
Here's another question for you in here. A really good question is, in Facebook, we look at click-through rates, for just to make sure that, hey, we're getting people to click on our ad, and link click-through rates and CPM. What are some of the KPIs that you think are the most important for when you're looking at YouTube? Are we looking at frequencies, at CPM, click-through? Like, what are probably 2 or 3 of the biggest KPIs that you're looking at?
Yeah, okay, cool. So my click-through rate is an important figure for me, just to know my ad quality is good, and it kind of borrows on the traffic quality as well. But I'll be looking to get anything around about 1.5% click-through rate. If it gets above that, amazing. If it's below that, it's not the end of the world, but anything below 1%, you're starting to struggle at that point. It's just not a good ad. Let's create a new ad. And then I want to obviously maximize your post-click conversion rate as much as possible, and increase those average order values as much as possible as well. So that's obvious marketing. But the other figure that I keep a very close eye on is the CPMs, because that will fluctuate naturally. There's things you do in the account that will create it to fluctuate, and there's things externally that will create it to fluctuate as well. Like if a load more advertisers start coming in to your space and start advertising, your CPMs are inevitably going to go up. So there's strategies to deal with that, and how you go about that. But yeah, it's that's the kind of, those are the 2 numbers I tend to look for.
I'm sitting here smiling over here because Justin's in here kind of spamming the comments. He's like, this is a ridiculous offer. Sorry to spam so much, but geez, thank you. I love that. It's good to have everybody here. Brian had asked, does this conflict with your regular Hot 28? No, I have a Hot 28 on Facebook. I have a Hot 28 on YouTube. So as I want to work with Tom, like I said, more selfishly, is I want to improve my conversions on YouTube, because what I hear now is, man, Kurt, we see you everywhere. I was thinking about doing business with you, and oh, I saw your YouTube ad. It reminded me that. Well, I get conversions because it reminds people over and over. I just got to get better on the direct response. So it doesn't conflict with my Hot 28. It actually makes it a lot better, a lot better. Plus, remember, there's different ways that you can retarget on Facebook and Google when you combine all these different channels together. If iOS tracking doesn't work on Facebook, hey, at least you got some YouTube retargeting. The thing is using all these different multi-channels increases the probability of you being able to communicate with your client instead of using one avenue of communication. Jacob, thank you very much. Says website's not secure. I made sure I changed that. Sorry about that. Love it. You're joining. Thank you, Renee, which is great. You said it's military encrypted, so I did change it to HTTPS. Thank you for correcting me on that. Tom, my audience is 50 plus, postmenopausal women. My stereotype is that they're less time than on average on YouTube. Thoughts?
Well,
is that demographic there?
Oh, huge
50
demographic
50-year-old.
there, yeah.
Thank you.
50 plus females? Oh, yeah, all over the place. That's great. We sell products to identify like very specific niche markets, like 65 plus males, and like just target exactly that market. And it's still huge. Everyone feels like I think the older demographic is 65 plus is the fastest growing audience on YouTube currently. So all the kids have got there, they're all familiar. The older demographic are getting there as well, but they're the fastest growing. So that's really encouraging. But yeah, man, like everyone goes to YouTube. Like the whole world goes to watch YouTube videos. Like it's not like it's a niche little place any longer than it used to be. It's everyone's there. So yeah, huge audience for 50 plus females for sure. Just depending on what they're looking for and why they're there and that sort of good stuff. But like normally when we're trying to target an older demographic, a really good audience is like newsreaders. It's just a little tip for people. Newsreaders can work really well. This audience is built for those people.
So Ron asked a question here. Ron, you asked if I'm going to do a workbook just like I did over for the fast track. As I go through the training with Tom, I'll create a workbook. I won't commit to it right now that you'll have it right away. It'll take me some time to put together, but I'd love to put together a checklist. I mentioned that to Tom months ago when we were talking about doing this type of training. Just takes for some time to put it together. I'd love to have that resource. Again, we want to turn this evergreen so people learn how to do YouTube overall, so which is good. Let's see here. No-brainer offer. Thank you. Can you cover again how to find the perfect audience? We did cover that again. Do you need to own your own product, or will this work with affiliate products? That's a really great question. So own your own products, affiliate products. How does YouTube feel about affiliate stuff?
Yeah, so affiliate products is great when it can get it to work, but it's cutthroat, right? So like, let's say, for example, you're working with the brand and you're the agency, or you're working with your own products as well. You can sometimes look at the lifetime customer value and be like, all right, in the early days, I spent my first $100 and I made $80 back. But then, one of those people bought a high ticket program. And so now I actually sold something for 5,000 and I'm like 20x ROAS or something like that. But it depends on the affiliate offer you're working with, right? So like some affiliate offers are not great payouts, but you end up making the company loads of back end profit, but you may not see all of that. And it's just cutthroat. I work with clients on performance-based deals. And if I do like a CPA deal with clients, which I often do, like I get paid out on a cost per sale or cost per lead or something, I'm funding my own ads. That can be more difficult sometimes. And so what we'll end up doing is doing some sort of profit share. So like, let's say, for example, we cap it out at the maximum allowable CPA, and then we'll work out some figure in the middle to be like, all right, well, look, you're going to pay out a maximum $100, but normally we get it in for $50, but we still got loads of testing to do. So we'll just split that profit margin in some way. So it just means that it's not like a firm, hard figure like you often get with an affiliate deal. So it's just a bit more cutthroat. And if you get it to work, my word, you can go crazy. And I know a lot of people that do, but I just don't want to say, yeah, go affiliate route, it's going to be amazing. It's more a case of saying it's a bit more cutthroat. And sometimes the assets you get available that you're not going to get the affiliate company to kind of start giving you better assets sometimes as well. So there's a few troubling bits around affiliate marketing, but sometimes if you know that market well, it can work really, really well.
Jody asked, will there be a replay? Absolutely be a replay. The replay will be live until not this Monday, but the following Monday, right before we start classes, so the 7th. Testing confuses me. Can you simplify it for me? What's the best way to structure an ad to start testing per the campaign level of ad set? So when testing a smaller budget, is it easy to go with placements, keywords? I know it's one of the things we'll dive through in a training, and I want to answer some other questions here. I got 6 minutes to run to the airport. Tom, from a high level view, where do you get started first to start optimizing? Because you can optimize for lots of different things all at once. Where would you get started first to start looking to optimize?
Yeah, cool. So I probably wouldn't look at the ads immediately. I would look at like build the campaign and then look at the targeting type. And if it's something like keywords or placements, pause out the bad stuff. And then I go gender, age, and device. Look at any outliers, get rid of those. And then I would look at the ads at that point. But don't worry about ad testing right now, because I'll just like lump 3 in there, let's say, or 2 in there, or even 1 in there if you really want to. Just lump a load in there. Because later on, once you start spending a bit more money, you're gonna have to be a bit more strategic about it. But in the early days, just throw the ads in there. Google will prefer 1, annoyingly sometimes, but just like if it's not working, pause it and let the other 2 run, or whatever it might be. Like it just no need to split test your ad creative from day one. More case, just put it in there and see which one wins.
Oh, and Facebook, they basically say different. They're like split as much stuff as possible. So that's interesting. Here's another one, is a really interesting question. I know it's kind of a higher level, but just kind of a broad view. How do you know when to shut it down? So for example, what I tell people is if they're getting a $10 lead on Facebook, I say run 4X for 3 days. So $40 a day for 3 days to see how many leads you start getting. When do you start to, what's kind of your parameters to know when to pull back or walk away soon?
If I'm not seeing the numbers I like, then I pause out real quick. Like I don't like wasting money if it's all possible. I like to give it so I can figure out the problem. But you're going to figure it out so quickly. Like if you're getting loads of clicks and like, let's say you're doing lead gen, for example, and you've got loads of clicks and your ad's killer and you've got your targeting nailed down. You're like, okay, I've got perfect targeting. I've got a great ad and loads of people clicking and no one's opting in. I'll be like, it's not an ad problem. It's a landing page problem. Let's go fix that. What's the problem there? And then if it's like, right, well, we're getting people through to our webinar, but no one's showing. It's like, well, that's not the ad problem. That's the website problem. But then if it's like, right, this targeting is just terrible. It's not working right. Let's work that one out. Let's work out like where your ads did show. Because you can analyze any step. And it's just a case of like, right, let's just try and fix it. If it doesn't work at all, then yeah, pause it real quick and kind of go take one step back a little bit and be like, what happened there? Why didn't it work? It's very rare for that to happen. Not to say it never happens, but there's always a way of figuring it out. And at that point, it's just making a few tweaks and changes, and then you're off and running again.
Question here, Brian has, and I know I'm happy to answer this. So does YouTube have like IDs, kind of like you have a Facebook post ID? It's just a link to the video. That's it. Super simple. There's no post IDs or anything else. Interesting question. Crypto. Does YouTube allow crypto advertising right now? Nope.
Not directly.
I see Facebook starting to allow that again, yeah, which is interesting.
Interesting. Well, maybe. I don't know. Normally, Google let up on that sort of stuff pretty quick, but last time I even attempted it, it was like, not happening. But you can do things in a clever way, I think. So you could like pull people in. You could probably do it through discovery advertising. So discovery ads will probably allow you to do it because you're not having a direct link to the website. But you probably just want to avoid a few key phrases. Like you can't even run an ad about like Forex. The word Forex is kind of somewhat banned. So you could do currency trading, and that's fine. So it's just little nuances that are annoying. But Bitcoin or crypto is going to be a challenge for sure. So you might want to get them under a different promotion, and then from there, once they've opted in, hey, this thing's actually about crypto. You can do that, but I don't advise that because it's like clickbait and stuff. But
we had a client one time. They're like, "How do you sell?" Not even a client, prospect. They're like, "How do you sell CBD?" And we're like, "We don't sell CBD online." They're like, "Well, we just call it botanicals and don't tell people CBD's in it until we send it out and give it to them."
Okay, yeah, that's
I don't think that's good. No, let's not. Yeah. We're going to walk away from this one. Interesting, Eric had pointed out, this is really early on. Eric said, typically Google AdWords using keywords or even GDN is not the best place to start. So typically a Google display is the way to burn lots of money very quickly unless you have an offer completely dialed in. Keywords a little bit differently, but what Google's been doing recently, I have a question for you on this. What Google's been doing recently is taking more of these broad word key matches that can start running you just out of, you can just start wasting money. But recently, Tom, even when I was filming, those bonus videos for the 4 videos of how do we target on Facebook and YouTube for this offer, YouTube just came out and basically said, your channel doesn't have to be monetized. We'll run ads directly on your channel and not pay you. So I am filming this talking about you. I click on my video to go to my channel as I'm showing the demonstration. An ad comes up for another Facebook course, and I'm on my channel. And I was so pissed because I'm like, I am directing people over to this very specific offer. Now, all of a sudden, YouTube's going to start running ads directly in front of my people and not paying me for it. So,
they're not paying. I think they're paying for
started with YouTube a lot fast.
I think they pay you for it, but I think they pay you for it. But I think you have to set up your AdSense or something. I don't know. But as a channel owner, I think you still get paid.
See, my AdSense isn't set up, and there's ads running on the channel. Same thing with Chris
get your
Mercer
AdSense set
when we were
up
going
then,
through a demo today.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Hey, we will pay you if you set your stuff up.
I think so. Yeah. I think that they're going to run ads on your stuff regardless, but you might want to get paid for it. You might as well do it. So
really getting set up on YouTube is a lot quicker. It's faster. It's easier to scale. And there's just not so many other complexities. Plus where YouTube runs, especially on the YouTube network, there's a lot more credibility when you're looking at sometimes displays run on lots of different placements and networks. Start with YouTube first. Another quick question for you, Tom. Is YouTube practical for e-commerce?
Definitely. It's a
easy.
lot of people find it hard, but we've had some massive breakthroughs on e-commerce recently. It's physical products are great. And from a standpoint of like single based products or multiple products as well, like it gets a little bit more, there's a few nuances to it, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's the same sort of experience that you would go through. It just depends on your audience and how you would target them effectively. Like sometimes your CPMs have to be really low. So interest-based targeting is normally better for you as opposed to search-based targeting. But the coming back to your point just a second ago with like GDN versus YouTube and stuff, Google ad buyers, I tell them like, you got to think differently because your creative is the main thing here. Like a really, really good ad is what we're doing here. And then finding targeting that works for the ad, not the other way around. Most Google people are like, I've got all this targeting and I throw a load of ads at them. It's like, no. Let's twist that around a little bit and say, I've got this great ad. Let's find what targeting works for it, because the ad is the everything. It's like, it's such a valuable piece of your connection. Like everyone remembers the ad. No one remembers like the copy or anything else like that. It's like you're selling an experience to people, and then let's just see what people resonate with that experience. But the experience is everything. It's like the 80-20 of it.
So I have a couple more questions here, and I want to be sensitive of your time. I have to run to the airport. So do you need to run? Can Nick come out and answer some additional questions with you? I got to make sure I get through security. That is my big thing.
I've got some dinner on the way from my lovely wife shortly. Okay. So I'm sure I'm going to get a knock in a minute, but I'm good.
Nick, are you there?
I'm here.
Do you mind coming out and fielding a couple of questions? I'll still be in the background with mute. I just got to turn off my camera as I finish packing and about ready to head out the door, but I just want to make sure that we answer these last additional questions, and happy to help in any way we can.
Sure. Did you get through the Q&A questions or just chat?
Just chat. If you could go into Q&A, that helped me a ton.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So Tom, let us know when you need to go, and we will.
I'll probably get a knock in a minute and I'll have to disappear at that point. But yeah, that's cool.
So Tom Earl asked, Tom, you talk about how the experience is more important than getting that perfect ad right. Would love to hear you expand on that. And he has a second question. For the course you offered last year, for those who implemented it right, you mentioned you would invest money back into them. Could you expand on that? For context, I also have that course for the purpose of creating agency clients. So that's really piqued my interest.
Okay, interesting. So let me talk about the video ad creation first. So kind of what we talked about in the session here, which is like looking at the when it comes to the promotions of your video ads, you really want to make sure that you're having that connection, because the ad is everything, right? Which we just talked about, like the ad is the whole experience, and so it's not an image, it's not text ads, it's like a full-on experience. It's unlike YouTube, unlike Facebook, because there's no text above the video, there's no comments underneath it. It's simply an ad by itself in isolation. So you've got to let that video do its thing, and so you've got to find the audiences that will resonate with that video. That's probably the most important thing. With regards to the other question, I'm not sure. It's maybe a little bit of a while ago, so I think it was like coming back to last year. And so feel free to email Kurt, and we'll answer that question. I think it sounds a bit more specific to something.
We'll get that straightened out with him. Brian asked, what strategy changes would you make from a larger country or global product sales strategies to create, or to local lead gen strategies?
Yeah, so with local lead gen, a couple of things I would do. On the creative front, I would very much call out that location. So let's say, for example, it's going to, I'm trying to think of it, Connecticut, for example. If you're doing some sort of promotion in Connecticut, you can tell my geography of the US is not as strong as it should be, being from the UK. But let's say, for example, you're promoting to that local area, I say local area, like a statewide area or a city or anything like that. I would call it out in the creative, just because it's going to really resonate with that audience. It's like almost like a shock factor. Like, hang on a second, this is for me. I live in this space. You can even call out the females, males, age groups to a certain extent as well. So you can really make that very, very specific to people very early on. And you might even want to show clips of the town or the city or the state or whatever it might be, so that people feel like, hey, that really is me. I can see it visually and I hear it as well. That would be really good from the creative standpoint. From the ad buying standpoint, when it kind of gets narrowed in, statewide, it's probably going to be fine if it's a large enough population. But when you start dialing into like individual cities and things, you might just broaden it out a little bit. So you're going to probably get better conversion rates by the fact that it's a local thing, and so you have more of an impact with people. And at the same time, you might need to just broaden it out a little bit. I wouldn't go down to like a 2-mile radius and run ads for YouTube ads. And I don't do that much local stuff anyway, but from experience, that's not been brilliant. Instead, you want to definitely widen it out quite a bit, and probably going to have to start kind of thinking a little bit broader about your targeting. So it might be like, right, I've got to target all females over the age of 40, like we talked about earlier or something, as opposed to just focusing on search terms or something. You've got to like widen it out a little bit. So it's much of the same. It's just more that the ad creative has a slight tweak to it, and the targeting has to get a little broader typically.
Perfect. Ron asks, does it help to use search software like Ahrefs or SEMrush for search results? Do you use tools like those?
If you're familiar with using them, yeah, not a prerequisite, and I like to just go faster. One of the things about that is a lot of that data is normally taken from Google or taken from other search platforms, but not YouTube. So with YouTube keyword searches, you'll tend to find that the way it works is that it's not based on the keyword. It's based on the context of that keyword. So let's say, for example, you were typing in weight loss tips, for example, as a keyword. Well, you're going to appear in front of all the videos about weight loss, but the videos very rarely will have like weight loss tips in the title. It'll have like, here's my transformation to losing weight, something. It's much more contextual. And so those are the content pieces that YouTube know, this is kind of what you wanted. And this is the best content we have on this thing, but it doesn't follow the same wording that you typed in. And so when you think about that as an advertiser and you think about the keyword targeting you're going for, it could be far better to look at some of those titles of those videos, use those as keywords, because then if you use those as keywords, you have this unique factor that no one else has those keywords. The CPMs normally drop quite a bit, and you can get some incredible scale with those keywords as well. So I tend to kind of like look at the titles of keywords that rank for the videos I want to like. I look at it and think, I'd love to appear in front of that video. That would be amazing. Or take that title, turn it into a keyword, and use that as a keyword. That can work really effectively.
Great. Jacob asks, how many different pieces of creative are most campaigns using?
In the end, I like to try and keep it to one. I'm quite unique like that. A lot of people don't do it that way. Some people do it with like normally 3 ads per campaign would be, but you'll use those 3 ads across multiple campaigns. So 3 ads is fine. You don't need to go crazy on creative, by the way, when it comes to YouTube ads. Just like 3 ads, you could run that for months. You'll be fine.
Awesome. And I believe this is the last question. Matthew asked, how long do you give a campaign that is spending, getting conversions, but may not be profitable yet, time to spend before you decide to shut it down?
Oh, if it's getting conversions and I'm spending money, I'm trying to optimize as quickly as possible. If you feel like you're going to optimize to the point where it doesn't actually function anymore because you've over optimized and you just weren't getting the results, then it's probably going to die a death before you even have to turn it off. But typically, if you're getting conversions, but they're just a little bit too expensive, you can do some optimization and get it under the price you want it for.
Perfect. Well, Tom, we will let you get to your dinner. We appreciate you lending us your brain for the last 2.5 hours. Plus, for those of you that would like to join Kurt and Tom for the live class that starts here in just about 2 weeks, I've just dropped the link inside the chat. It's thebelt.live/breeze. We would encourage you to do that before Sunday evening, because you'll save $100 before then. And if you have questions, we'll be glad to get to those on those upcoming calls. So Tom, again, thank you for being here. Enjoy your dinner, enjoy your evening. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you soon. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.